Okay, one more minute. We'll start in 1 minute. Eric, you ready? Okay, let's get ready to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody get to a seat. All the conversations, we're going to start with the pledge, so let's do that. If everyone can get to their seats. Okay. Jim, you want to start? Okay, Harmony, you want to do the verification of quorum?
Testing.
Can you grab Howard's and maybe lean it your way?
Hello? Okay, sorry. Director Nathan?
Here.
Director Berringham?
Here.
Director Odell is absent. Director Poland?
Here.
President Welty?
Here.
4 present, 1 absent. Quorum met.
Okay, can I get a motion for the approval of the minutes?
Testing, I think they're working now.
Testing.
All right, we're back. We had a little bit moment where the microphones went out, so the people at home wonder what we were wandering around for is because we lost the microphones. Sounds like we're back in business, so we'll go ahead. Chris had some comments.
September 3rd, regular session board minutes, page 2 of 3, PDF page 5. Item 6.4, it says approval of $23,800 from capital improvement funds for the purchase of additional boxes. And I believe that was for additional scanning and the purchase of additional boxes. We were not going to buy $23,800 worth of boxes.
We can have that approved as corrected, if you'd like.
Any other corrections? Okay, can I hear a motion as corrected?
So moved?
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 absent, motion carried.
All right, public officials, I see Darcy's out there. You have some information for us?
Good evening. I wanted to talk about 2 things this evening. One is some water quality complaints that I've received, that I've seen on Facebook. I don't know if the POA has gotten any. I know the Water District has gotten 22 call-in issues regarding taste and odor issues. A couple things are, there are actually 2 water districts that serve Canyon Lake. So if you are served by Eastern Municipal Water District, this issue did not apply to you. And for Elsinore Valley, the issue has been a change in source water. So typically we blend the water we serve Canyon Lake, Tuscany Hills, and Canyon Hills between groundwater, imported water, and between April and October, water from our lake. As part of our regular operations and emergency response planning, we shut off our wells and imported water and went only onto the lake. And that is to exercise all those valves and appurtenances that if the main line was broken at Interstate 15, we know we could still serve those areas. At the same time, as luck would have it, the lake began to turn and the water quality for the taste and odor issues was degraded. So staff has been flushing the lines, recirculating the tanks, addressing it with some additional treatment to try and address the taste and odor issue. I am very sorry that people are experiencing it. I know how inconvenient it is, but the water is safe to drink and the water is safe to use. If you have additional concerns, I'm going to leave my card at the desk, and on Facebook I've listed my phone number as well. I'm happy to talk to anybody that has any questions. The other issue that I also saw on social media, and it's been in the traditional media, is on PFAS. And that is an emerging contaminant. And why I say emerging is that the EPA has set a limit of 70 parts per trillion of these substances that are man-made. You find them in shampoo, scrub, like a facial scrub. It's on your Teflon coating, in your pans, it's in your clothes. It's pretty much a chemical additive that is in all manufactured goods, and it's also in the flame retardant that the Air Force used at March Air Force Base. So that's one of the reasons and how it got into Canyon Lake. The US EPA has set the maximum contaminant level at 70 parts per trillion. So that's 70 drops in the Rose Bowl if the Rose Bowl was full of water, to kind of give you a visual. California legislature, without scientific background, decided on August 19th that they knew better than the scientists, and they set that at 4 and 6.5 respectively, depending on the classification. There is no one treatment process currently that addresses the 31 different contaminant substances in that family. Some work better with ion exchange and some work better on reverse osmosis. Both of those treatment processes are extremely expensive. As we look to refurbish Canyon Lake Water Treatment Plant, we are looking at those options future down the road. What the City of Canyon Lake elected officials received and the county supervisors is a notice that we actually were above what the state recommended, which was at 6, which is a notification. That doesn't mean response. That doesn't mean we have to take things off online. It doesn't mean that it's not safe. It's part of the regulatory process just to notify people where they are. There are a few wells in the Elsinore Valley service area that tested above the 6, and then Canyon Lake also tested above the 6. I think Canyon Lake was at 13. So why we work to address this, I know there's a lot of misinformation out there and a lot of, I'm going to say, media liking to get a lot of hype to give people grave concern. So I had spoke to Eric earlier, and there's a video that Elsinore Valley prepared that we're going to show. It is on Elsinore Eddy's YouTube page, it's on Facebook, and it's on the website at Elsinore Valley, evmwd.com, and there's also a fact sheet and hotline. I will leave a fact sheet up at the desk as well, and again, I'm happy to take any questions. Lynn, could you play the video? That would be great. Thank you. That's all I had. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other public officials? I saw Randy Bonner out there. I don't know if he has anything. Randy's good. Anyone else? Okay. Let's move on to presentation. We had some competitive skiers go out and were pretty successful in some competition. So I'm not a national skier myself, but we have a ski competitor on the board. That's Tom Nathan. I'm going to let Tom do the honors of the presentation.
Thank you. We received from the Office of Melissa Melendez, our 67th District Assemblywoman, certificates for accomplishments achieved by Canyon Lake skiers this year at the regional tournament that was held the last week of July in Windsor, Colorado. So when I call your name, please come up. I have a lot of certificates, and it looks like a lot of you are here tonight, so that's a good thing. First is going to be Liam Brady. He got 5th place in the Boys 1 Trick Division. Congratulations. Does anybody want to take pictures? If you want to take pictures, please feel free to come on up.
Tell them to stay up there.
Right here with all your Canyon Lake teammates.
Yes.
Next is Janelle Kerber. She got 3rd place in the women's 3 slalom. Next is Diana Sue Parker, our women's 5 division jump champion. Next is Carol Brooks. She was second place in women's 5 slalom. And her son, Stephen, couldn't be here, but I have one for Stephen, and I'm sure she'll get it to him. He was the men's open overall champion title. Next is Joe Perez, second place in men's 5 jump. And I think the last one here is Scott Larson, probably our best slalom skier here in Canyon Lake. He was the champion of the Masters men's slalom division. All right, get a group photo for everybody else I think that I have over here.
Tom, you got a couple more there. I think you should at least,
I'm going to at least note the people who weren't able to make it here tonight. Jay Fitzpatrick was third place in men's 5 slalom. Brad Hartwell was second place in men's 6 trick. Kevin Hyatt was the men 5 jump champion. And my daughter Kendra was the girls 3 overall champion. So congratulations to them also. We'll get these to them.
that's a great thing for our community to have the adults and the children go out and be competitive and win some awards. So anyway, thanks to you all for all your work and your effort. Appreciate it. And you're all smiling. I like to see that. All right. Thank you. All right. Let's move on. Okay. Let's move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items A through F. Do I have a motion? Anyone want to pull an item?
I'll move passage of the consent agenda, items A through F.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 absent, motion carried.
Okay, agenda item 1 is the annual committee reappointment. Lynn, are you going to
Okay, good evening. So annually, every year, we have been bringing the master roster of all the committees. Currently, the committee guidelines set a 1-year term limit for all committee members, so we bring a master list to the board annually. So staff is requesting that the board of directors approve the master committee member roster as recommended for reappointment, effective October 1st, 2019.
Do I have a motion or any comment?
I'll make a motion that we approve the attached list of committees for the coming year, effective October 1st.
I'll second.
Okay, any comment? Okay, any comments? Harmony, do we have any
No,
speakers?
sir.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 absent, motion carried.
Okay, let's move to 6.2, approval of revised committee charters. Harmony?
Okay, so similar to our annual member roster, we have our charters reviewed by the new board every year. And this year, they took a close look and made quite a few recommendations that we'd like the board to approve.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I've got a couple things, I think they're just mostly typographical, but want to note them. In facilities review, on the second page, we mentioned the 5-year project plan. PDF page, looks like 60. So the 5-year project plan, and then below that, we refer to just a 5-year plan. I think we should insert the word project into 2 different locations underneath that, where it just says, one says the identified 5-year plan, and then the other one just says with a 5-year plan. So since we refer to it as project plan, I think it's appropriate that we just put project in with both of those locations too. And then the next page, page 61, down at the bottom where we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th bullet item, it says coordinate and plan. It says committee funds from, and committees don't have funds. So we'll eliminate those 3 words, committee funds from, and just have it read coordinate and plan sponsors and vendors. And then under Finance Committee, PDF 65, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th bullet just says develop a 5-year plan. And I think we should be a little more descriptive, like we were with the facilities, where it describes what the plan is. And the facilities, it was a 5-year project plan, and it went on to describe what the projects were. And here I think we should either say a 5-year budget plan or forecast plan, something to at least describe for the Finance Committee what it is that we're looking for, instead of just saying a 5-year plan. But I don't know, I don't have any specifics.
I think any of your term, which term would you prefer to put in there? A 5-year finance plan?
That's fine.
Okay.
And that's it.
So you want to make a motion as amended?
Make a motion, we approve the committee charters as amended to those items.
Okay.
Second?
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Wait a minute.
Oh, so any comments from,
No, not on this item.
any more board comments? Okay.
I would just like to say that I think that there are some significant refinements in these charters. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, if you're on these committees, you want to take a close look at this. We are seeking ways to better engage the board's decision-making process, the staff's exploratory and planning work with our committees, and it's reflected in these charters. And this is something that we set out to do this year, and I'm very pleased that this is happening.
Okay. Any more comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 absent, motion carried.
The next one is 6.3, the policy approval for RFID trust transponder for permanent guests. Corey?
Good evening. What I'd like to do tonight is read through the background of this proposed policy, go through the individual details of the policy, and then invite Steve Liebreen to the table here as chairman of the FRC to review and discuss some of their findings and ultimately what led to this recommendation. So the background on this proposed policy is in an effort to minimize traffic backups and provide an efficient means of entry into the community, staff proposed a policy to issue vehicle transponders to family members of homeowners in May 2019. In June, the board held a workshop to discuss this policy, and several community members raised concerns regarding the lack of ID verification, the definition of family, and the lack of guest notification. At the September Facilities Review Committee meeting, these concerns were discussed, and a recommendation was made to modify the policy to allow issuance of an RFID transponder to those individuals on the permanent guest list. Currently, only 36% of properties have utilized the permanent guest list. So to cover the policy details, number 1, a homeowner or eligible leasee may authorize the association to issue vehicle transponders to individuals listed on the permanent guest list. The homeowner or eligible leasee and the corresponding permanent guest must complete the registration form, provide valid vehicle registration, and pay the appropriate fee. A company listed on the permanent guest list would not be eligible. The vehicle registration must be registered to the requesting permanent guest, and the vehicle must be present at the office. Staff will adhere the transponder. Vehicles registered in a company name would not be eligible. A parking identification decal would be issued, and upon the sale of the property or the termination of the transponder, the parking decal would be required to be returned, or a fee would be applied. The transponder would remain active in one-year increments, and to maintain the active status, valid registration would have to be provided on an annual basis. To terminate the transponder, the homeowner must submit a request in writing and return the parking identification decal. The association maintains the right to revoke this policy for any reason, including violations of the rules and regulations, damage to POA property, or a change in policy as approved by the board. Lastly, no refunds would be issued. Replacement transponders would be issued upon payment of the fee again. So what I'd like to do next is invite Steve to the table here. Again, he is chair of the Facilities Review Committee, and this is the committee that proposes this policy.
Thank you. So I just want to add briefly that we looked at the traffic that's coming in. I know a lot of you asked, do we have some data? And we looked at the traffic that's coming in the main gates and the entry gates and stuff like that. And so I got a few statistics I want to kind of share with you so to help kind of put this in a little bit of perspective. We're talking about a very small select percentage of our visitors here. Okay, these are our visitors elite, if you want to call them. We have 78,000 guests a month that come into our gates. We only have 6,800 people on the permanent guest list. If that's like 9%, and if those people all came in, at least once a month on the permanent guest list, that means they represent about 4% or 5% of the total number of guests. So this is just the top of the cream of the crop, or whatever you want to call it. Okay. By comparison, as an example, on a holiday, we get 2,400 guest passes. Now that's carloads of guests. 2,400 carloads of guests on Mother's Day. 3,000 on Thanksgiving, 5,000 on 4th of July. So that's a single day entry. We're pumping in, 10 to 20,000 guests on that one day. So these people that we're talking about are your permanent guest list. This is your mother who comes to visit on holidays, or this is your daughter that comes in, or your caretaker, or whatever that situation be, that you've gone to a special arrangement to make sure that they're on the permanent guest list. They come in. They get to come in now anyway, anytime they want. They have free access. You've already pre-approved them for free access in because they've already been screened. You've already put them in. We're going to have all the information that we need on them to know their vehicle license, their registrations, everything else like that, stuff. So this isn't just somebody you thought of randomly, kind of a thing. This is a pre-planned event that you've carefully plotted out. And as Corey shared, only a third of the community even use the permanent guest list. 2/3 of the community don't even use it. It's not even something that they're interested in. And of that third that use it, they're not even using it to the full maximum number of guests. It's averaging about 4 guests per person. So it's not a lot of people. But it is important that we understand that we have severe traffic issues. And we have a potential liability that rests with us to mitigate that traffic issue. And so we need to take steps that'll help do that, okay? So we have to sometimes you have to weigh the advantages of one issue the POA has to deal with the other issues that may be raised and that. But reducing the waiting time for all of our guests is a positive for our community. Reducing the waiting time for these guests specifically, take a holiday, they don't have to sit in line, and the first conversation at Thanksgiving is the hour long they had to wait in line to get in the gate or something like that. So this is the type of thing that we want to do. We can increase our safety. we want to also take advantage of our investment. We've invested a lot of money in this system to process people. This is technology at work, okay? We're still using a 50-year-old policy of writing out paper passes. There's no need to have paper passes. This is a way to reduce that and reduce the time that process. It takes about 4 to 5 times as long to process a paper pass as it does to go through RFID land. And again, let me remind you, these are people who already have access. They are coming in. They'll come in anytime they want. They already have that privilege. All we're doing is saying is because they're that elite person that we've already given that special privilege to, we're not going to make them wait in line and congest our gates for no reason than to other issue a archaic paper pass. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you have or be happy to respond to something in the future if you get some.
Steve, maybe you can come sit over here in case anybody has any questions later. Okay, we're going to, Harmony of public comments. Let's go ahead and see if we have a motion to make. Anyone want to make a motion?
I move we approve the policy related to the RFID transponder for permanent guests.
Is there a second? I can second. I'll second the motion. All right. Let's go ahead and we have member comments.
Yes, our first is Dave Britterman.
Lynn, are you in the timer?
I appreciate the opportunity to be heard. Sounds like before I got heard, it was kind of like the last meeting where everything was already decided before we got to speak our opposition to it. Sounds like we're already passing it, and like the last meeting, it was supposed to be to discuss the merits and everything of it. There's a lot of negatives to it, and I'm going to read this. As you can see, hopefully you all got copies of it. But RFID passed out to non-residents of Canyon Lake would likely be the biggest mistake ever made by our board. RFID to non-residents is a direct violation of our basic constitution, our founding fathers, CC&Rs, which, excuse me, I have asthma. But that was our founding fathers, CC&Rs, which clearly states that no one shall enter our private community without identification unless they are a card-carrying property owner. This basic security is one of the primary reasons to live in Canyon Lake. Security is essential, especially now with high crime rates and homeless vagrants all over California and in every uncontrolled sanctuary they can find. Once they are in, our security will be lacking in the ability to deal with massive problems from feces, drugs, needles, and crime. Why would we ever consider something which opens access to carloads of unknown residents? We pay good money for a safe and private community. The question of free access RFIDs is absurd and against every best interest to residents of Canyon Lake. For those who are unfamiliar, our lake is a target for poachers who rape our lake of trophy bass every night. And our security does virtually little or nothing to these non-residents. Most security says that they are not adequately trained to deal with poachers, so they turn a blind eye. These people are non-residents who are homeowners, who are on homeowners' dwelling live lists. They can commit crimes, but they must pass through the gate with an ID check. So at least we know who is entering our community. RFID carriers would be able to bring in carloads of criminals without any ID check. Why would we voluntarily expose ourselves and our families to these potential dangers? And their access is a violation of our CC&Rs, so this shouldn't even be considered as an option. These objections were given to the board on June 26, 2019, in writing. The board acknowledged the objections, saying they would review and open this to further discussion. To this date, It has been silently swept under the carpet, and no news has been disseminated in the Friday Flyer, nor has any open discussion been taken place. The numerous people I have spoken to have been 100% against open RFID, and I have told them that the board must have seen the light since nothing further has been brought to the residents' attention. Obviously, you have had meetings, haven't you? It's already trying to be, you guys are already telling us what the rules are going to be, yet we haven't had this open discussion like we agreed on the June 26th meeting. Let's see, where do they go? Again, 100% of residents I have spoken to are against open RFID. All have stated they pay for security and feel that they should have a say in such an important issue. I am insistent on a special election or a vote by Canyon Lake residents which clearly spells out both sides of this important subject. This cannot be railroaded through by our POA board without a fair hearing, especially since it violates our Constitution, our CC&Rs. So I'm saying say no to the RFID. And there are a lot of security issues that
Okay,
I
thank you.
have outlined in the
We have your
26.
paper, thank you.
Okay?
Dennis Corte. Dennis Corte.
I don't know how to top that, but I do remember the homicide that happened here because we had the permanent guest list open. I personally do not use the permanent guest list, and you mentioned 2/3 of the people here don't use the permanent guest list. There's a reason for that. We don't want, like the last gentleman said, people just coming in and out at random. When John Sable was the general manager here, I brought forth to you guys, use the same system Southwest Airlines gets. I order somebody to come in here, it shows up on my phone. I go to the gate, I show them my phone. If you have a busy weekend like 4th of July, they get a stamp or whatever on their pass, or they get a pink sticker in the window. They can go through the RFID gate. They are already approved. Somebody from security has to confirm and verify that. You're losing control of our security. I've been here for over 25 years. I do not want to do that.
Thank you.
Joe Grasso.
Good evening. So I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think it's fair to say that a few months ago we did have discussion on this subject. You guys had an open forum so the community can come speak against the idea of issuing RFID to non-resident family members. I think at that time we had a number of people speak against the whole idea of that concept, of which you guys somewhat seem to have agreed at that time and tabled it for further discussion and research. If I'm not mistaken, at that time we also discussed the idea of possibly getting rid of the permanent guest list for the same reason, that people have been called in, and I realize tit for tat, they're verified by us as prime residents of this community. They're supposed to be close friends and or family members. So issuing them an RFID, I understand the concept that Steve's throwing out there, that these would be somewhat verified through us. They should be somewhat close friends or close family members that get the issuance of the RFID. But the fact remains the same. This is a private community. Anytime you implement an idea or a change to the current policies in the CC&Rs or policies and procedures that compromise the security and the privacy of this community, we have to take a long, hard look at that and do a little more research than just throw a Band-Aid at it. Obviously, no system that we've purchased, Dwelling Live, RFID is going to be perfect, and I understand that. But there's lots of room for improvement with Dwelling Live, and I'll give you a really good example of that. Just this evening, I pulled in to the guest pass lane with my Canyon Lake issued card as a Prime member. And the reason I did that was because I need a parking pass. I'm going to be parking on a public street. So in order for me to comply with this current CCNRs or policies and procedures, I'm going to be in the parking lot. I need a parking pass. It took roughly 6 to 7 minutes for him to key in the information to pull me up online. I asked, why don't you have a scanning device? Why don't you have a mechanism like we have in the other 2 lanes that allows you to take my pass and scan that and get all my pertinent information and print me a pass? That's something that should take less than 2 minutes in my mind. And he says, it's a problem. I says, so for you as a security guard working these gates, what would you recommend that we do that we can improve our current Dwelling Live system or check-in policy system here at the gate? And he said, a scanning device, preferably wireless, that would scan in your card. You know, Steve comes up here and talks about some of the percentages of which we're talking about issuance of these RFIDs. 4 to 5%? How much of an impact is that going to have on minimizing traffic at the gate? It's not. 4 or 5% is nothing. What we're talking about here is holidays. And there's maybe a handful, a half a dozen or so, that really impact the gates at our community on those specific days. I think what we need to do is really talk about how we can make improvements to our current system. Sit down, brainstorm some ideas, talk with the people who we've purchased this system from. Maybe we've talked it to death already and maybe need to look at a different system from somebody else. But as far as I'm concerned, again, a private community, there's nowhere you can go in this country, let alone the state of California, and enter into that community and not wait in line. That's just the way it is.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
Cheryl Fine.
Oh my gosh, the arrogance of this board that you would sit there and give a vote before you hear from us. Unbelievable. I have worked in cybersecurity for over 20 years. You are very naive about how you're voting on this. To be in a spot where you're making it a little easier for people to get in at the harm of all of us members is incredible. Have you taken a look at Megan's Law? Go on the internet and look at it. There's about 100 within a 5-mile radius. 100 people. 6 of them in Canyon Lake. Quite a number, no surprise, in Lake Elsinore. But there are boatloads between here and the 215 all through Menifee. And if you don't think those people talk to each other and figure out how they get in here, you're incredibly naive. If you look at some of the statistics with property and violence, 2017 was the last year it was published. 16 violent crimes in Canyon Lake. 115 property crimes. This is all the burglary, all the theft we worry about each and every day, each and every night. We have to put an enormous expense into cameras to protect ourselves. It's incredibly naive. You would think that those people, they already find a way into Canyon Lake. And oh boy, now they can do it once and have it access all year. When you look at your big pamphlet you publish, it's interesting. The thing that jumps out to you is convenience and revenue. It's not about that, gentlemen. It's about safety for each of us and our families and what we pay for here. It's not convenience, it's not money.
Harmony, anything else? Anyone else?
Yes, Kelly Jenkins.
Kelly, can you turn your mic on?
Before I make my statement, I just want to address what Tim said earlier as far as the permanent guest list and how it's going to change with the RFID. As it is now, when visitors come that are on the permanent guest list, they need to show ID still to get in, to get their pass. Each time they go in and out of the gate, they're supposed to show their ID along with that pass. You issue an RFID to that car. That car could enter with anybody in it, not the person that was originally issued the RFID. So that car could be loaned out to other people, family members, whoever. So you're not just issuing it to one person, you're possibly issuing it to a multitude of people that drive that one car. I don't pay much attention to the Canyon Lake politics, but I was recently brought to my attention and I felt the need to speak up on this issue. I understand that the proposed solution is to alleviate congestion at our gates and assist our guards in increasing the flow of traffic, but in my opinion, and many people I've talked to, it's a completely flawed solution and other avenues should be explored to solve the problem. By issuing a permanent or even semi-permanent pass to non-residents, we just open the gates to abuse, added congestion at our amenities, and an overall burden to the residents who already pay a high enough fee to live in a private community. I do understand and agree that this would be a useful tool in some instances, like for those residents who have constant visitors such as home health care providers, family that live outside the gates and visit often and such. But it's my fear that the majority of those passes issued will eventually wind up being abused, and as a result will eventually experience additional crimes, overcrowding at our facilities, and an increase to the workload of our already taxed security. As it is now, I know for a fact that many of our amenities are being used by non-residents on a regular basis. My guess is that many of these non-residents are part of the outside workforce that are here to fulfill the needs of the residents on an ongoing basis, but also use some of the amenities on their days off to enjoy the same things us residents enjoy within our gates. I can't say I blame them. If I didn't live here, I'd probably do the same thing. On a side note, I do believe that this is a problem and should be looked into and rectified as well. I don't know how many of you monitor our local social media, but I can tell you without a doubt that many people who live outside our gates are always scheming to find a way to get in, to fish, use our beaches, parks, or what have you. Some will go as far as answering Craigslist ads posted by residents with the hopes of getting called in while having no intentions of showing up at the seller's house, but instead taking advantage of what we call a bit of paradise. Pass this rule and you'll have to change our slogan from a bit of paradise to what was once a bit of paradise. And while you're at it, change the sign at the main gate from a private community to a semi-private community. Please don't pass this ridiculous rule and work with the community to come up with a better solution. Thank you.
Joe Washley.
I'm going to be the bad guy. The way people are talking, I guess we should stop allowing any guest in, because any guest you call in can bring in 5 or 6 homeless people that are going to do all these things to our property. They can bring in predators with them, etc. And it just doesn't seem to me. I love the permanent guest list. There's at least 6 people that when they're coming to see me, I don't have to call them in. And I think that was the purpose of the thing. What Steve's talking about is getting them in here even faster with the RFID. He's not saying call somebody in different and give them an RFID or other people. I think it's a good idea to give these people on the permanent list an RFID to get them in here a lot faster. I wasn't prepared to talk. I wasn't going to talk, but I just can't sit still. But anybody that you call in could do these things that we're accusing the permanent people. Anybody can do that. So if we're going to call in guests, let's work with the permanent thing. Let's get those people in faster and cut down the lines a little bit. Sorry, people.
Thank you, Joe Harmony. How we doing?
One more, Chuck Moreno.
Okay.
Chuck Moreno, 3846-330. I'm here to oppose the idea of the giving away the lake. I mean, come on. Aren't we friends and neighbors? I know all of you. You've all talked to me. We're all friends, right? I know you love this place. I love this place too. Why are you putting it like you're trying to ruin it? I mean, for everybody. I mean, for the account of what, 3% of people that are just too lazy to call in a guest pass or come early? I mean, that was always the deal. If I came for any type of holidays to visit mom and dad when I did not live here, I would come early. And if I had to wait in line, okay. I wait in line at Stater Brothers, Disneyland, wherever you go nowadays, you got to wait in line. I mean, are we just that impatient? I don't understand the mentality. I really don't. Because I know you guys have huge vested interests in this place. You've been here for years. We live in a great community. But I just think this is a step in the wrong direction. Let me hit this one. Steve said something about severe traffic issues, okay, that we need to mitigate or whatever you want to say about it. The only reason we have severe traffic issues is because we created that severe traffic issue. And let me tell you why. We've allowed all the guest passes to come in the decal lane. So now the word's out, it's been out for years, that it's an easy, you can just easily roll through the lake. Every time I come through the North Causeway or the North Gate, there's somebody in front of me and they go all straight through the lake all the way out the East Gate, because that's where I live, at the East Gate. Okay, I see it constantly. It's every single day. I have about 1,000 pictures on my phone. I'm known by security, as that's what they tell me. I go and take a look at a lot of guest passes, and I match the guest pass to the vehicles, and you would be blown away by the number of guest passes that are not matching vehicles. I mean, we have an abuse problem in this lake that is huge, man. We should be taking care of it. I don't understand why we're going to give it away, just to, help a 3% of the people. I really would like to talk to you guys personally, sit down, have a beer or whatever, and come on, let's have the beer summit or something. Also, I don't understand how come you backdoored this, and that is the truth. We came and we talked civilly, okay, at the workshop. Then we came to the meeting and the issue was tabled. And then all of a sudden, bam, it's back up on the agenda. And you guys are going to vote on this thing. I mean, can we table it again, please? Let's have an open mind. I'll have an open mind. I think everybody behind me will have an open mind. But hey, take a look at social media and look at the number of people that are against this. Okay? I mean, it's very basic. I wish there was some type of way you could do a little voting and get people to give your input, so you could actually look at real live data there. I don't know what else to say except for this is absurd. It's unbelievable that I'm here tonight, and I want to give a shout out to my mom. It's her birthday tonight. We're supposed to go out to dinner, but guess what? We're here fighting for our rights. Okay, so. You guys have a good night.
Okay, Harmony, that's all the comments? Okay, we're on to board comments. I'll kind of start. Yeah, I know we're concerned about the safety of the community inside, but I'm also concerned about the safety of the people out in line. That line gets long, people get frustrated, people cut people off. Out at our front gate, they're backed up into the traffic lanes, and they're creating not a great situation for not only our members, but people who are using the road. So I know we're concerned about the safety of our people inside, but we're also concerned about the safety of those people coming in the gates. Those gates are also blocking members. The members can't get into the RFID because the blinds are backed up for a long time. So we have to consider some level of the safety. I've talked to a number of people about how many people they would call in. Most people would call in about 50 people. The members of their families, the people that come work on their homes, and other guests, and they run about 50. And I asked the same people, how many people would you let use your car? And the answer is 1 or 2. I don't see if someone's going to figure some way to get an RFID car in the gate, they're going to figure some way to talk their way in. I think there's ways in this community. There's fences to climb. There's people in business that you can talk your way in. There's ways to get in the gate. The RFID is not going to be the easiest. They would be tracked every time they came in the gate. They would come in. And my last comment is my father-in-law lived in a place, and the amenities at that place were far better than Canyon Lake. They had 3 real gymnasiums. They had over 36 holes of golf. They had an auditorium like this, only with stadium seating that fit 500 people. They had an Olympic-sized pool inside. They had a couple Olympic pools outside. They had kids' pools. I think they had like 5 or 6 pools. They had an Irish bar, and then they had a sports bar. This place had probably 3 times the amenities that we have here. And to get into their gate, what you had to do is drive up and say, I want to go use the restaurant. And based on the fact that you were going to go use the restaurant, they let the people come through the gate. So I agree that security is an issue. And part of it is I believe our security needs to change and become more technology driven. I know that there's a lot of comments about the trailers and about the radar. But we've had security companies here for the last 20 years, and we have the nonstop same complaints. The complaints is the guards aren't good enough, they aren't smiling enough, they're not checking enough, they're not doing their job. We go ahead and we roll out a company, and we roll in a new one, we roll out a general manager, we roll out them, we roll out a board, and we roll in a new board. We have this never-ending change of how we're going to fix security. And at the end of the day, it always comes back to the same problem. Well, we have an opportunity now, the 20 sensors, to really automate, use technology to enhance our security through the trailers, through the radar, through RFID at the gates. We can really up the level of security. We can take our security guards who are checking my grandmother to come in through the gate, and we can use them to patrol our beaches. We have better use of our resources. Our estimate that if we were to automate our gates, in my mind, we're going to save between $200,000 and $250,000 a year. And that's a lot of money we can use to both patrol other places, stock the lake. And one of the groups I talk to is the seniors on the fixed income. They're very, very concerned about the dues going up, and we're very concerned because they're on a fixed income. I mean, the money we can save and help them and to help keep the dues low is very significant. So I think if we move towards technology, we'll get better policing, better security, and we'll make it easier for people to come in. And another example of security, if I had somebody making a washer and they could make one a minute and 9 out of 10 of them were good, but 1 out of 10 of them were bad, and somebody came to me and say, hey, I have a device here that can do 10 times as many washers in the time, and the error rate's 1 out of 1,000, I would go with the technology, and that's kind of where we're curving here with security. We don't believe simply pushing the old method of security is going to enhance the security in the community. We think we need to bring, at least I think, this is my statement, I think we need to bring in technology to really kind of create a safe place. And we hear a lot about safety and the bad guys, but we also on Facebook hear a lot about the trailers. And so on the one hand, we're screaming that we're going to let a couple people in, and on the other hand, we're screaming that the trailers are invasive. All right, well, the trailers are slowing people down, and to me, that's a big safety issue. And at the end of the day, for all these issues, it comes down to this for me. I can lose sleep at night because someone got a ticket, or I can lose sleep at night because some kid got killed by a car that was going too fast. And I will tell you, I have no trouble losing sleep over a ticket, but if a kid gets killed in this lake because we haven't patrolled properly, I'm not going to be able to sleep and live with myself. And I think by upscaling, spending our resources on our patrol and our security money more effectively, we're going to have a more secure place, not a less secure place. No questions.
Excuse me. I'd like to speak. Is that okay? Howard, please. Will we be violating our CC&Rs if we pass this?
You're not violating the CC&Rs. You have the right to make the decision that you want to tonight.
Thank you. I really do appreciate every comment that was made. Please remember that we are only allowed to discuss this information in front of you. We can't get together and make a decision in advance. So this is our chance to talk about this. The agenda comes out, the material comes to us, you come, we want to hear from you. We aren't even required to do that, but we do that. So I bristle a little bit at the notion that this is made up and somehow we're violating your rights, because this is how we get to hear from you. Another thing is that under the rules that we have to operate to have an orderly meeting, we can't discuss this without a motion. We have to have a motion and a second. If we don't have a motion and a second, then we can't talk about it. We have to just go on to the next item. And I don't think that's an appropriate way to deal with an issue that's this sensitive to our community. So please, help us work through this, but help us recognize that we have to do this in an orderly manner. I think that there's the issue of convenience for people who visit here often. That has to be thought about. This is one of many steps that we're going through to improve accessibility to our community, because we all know that we have an issue there. This is just one of them. Whether it's the right thing to do or not is what we're talking about tonight. But there are plenty of other things that are being done. Electronic passes, signage, RFID for itself, and our members using it. All those things work to our advantage. You know, I was really compelled by the notion that a member, to put somebody on their permanent guest list and take responsibility for them, and that person has to come and bring their car to the POA office, and it has to be properly registered, and they have to have a driver's license and all that, makes it different than just calling in a guest. But we still have the problem, as you have all pointed out, that we don't know who's driving that car. The other thing that makes this different than just a guest is that we have the ability to shut this off in a heartbeat. That RFID pass can be turned off with notification to the POA. So that if you have a guest or we find somebody that comes in and misbehaves, we can turn the RFID off and they're locked out. It's not like this is an instant thing. But I do feel very strongly about how you all feel about safety. I feel as strongly about safety. I know that the information that I see rates Canyon Lake as one of the safest cities in California, but that doesn't overlook the fact that we do have issues here. But that is something else that we have to consider. But I think it is important that we listen to our members, especially when we can draw a crowd like this and we can have as many strong feelings as we have. And so I'd like to withdraw my motion.
Okay. So the motion failed?
Unless you'd like to make another motion, his motion is withdrawn.
We do need a new motion?
So motion fails for lack of second, because it's just your motion at this time.
Can I make a subsidiary motion?
You don't need to, that motion failed.
Ask Howard.
Yeah, Howard said no.
Yeah, no, you can't do that now. You'd have to bring it back.
Okay. Okay, so that agenda item has basically not received two motions, so it'll fail. We have item 6.4, which is the permanent guest vehicle transponder fee addition. Corey, I think since the 6.3 failed, I'm not sure how far you want to go. I don't think you need to comment on 6.4.
Correct.
I'll just go basically say, do I hear a motion to approve 6.4? I didn't think so, so we'll go ahead and no motions on 6.4. Okay, 6.5, approval of the ad hoc Fiesta Day Work Group Committee member appointment. That would be Carrie.
Carrie's not here. Let me just, I am doing that for her. Okay, so the Fiesta Day Committee, Harry Larson has been recommended by the Fiesta Day Work Group to be appointed as a new member. Mr. Larson has volunteered with the committee for the past 6 months and this last Fiesta Day. The committee has made the recommendation and voted to recommend his appointment September 13th. Currently, we have 2 applications. The committee has not met with the second applicant, but due to Mr. Larson's participation with the group as a volunteer this last year, the committee has recommended that we fill the vacancy with Harry Larson. So it is requested that the board approve or reject. Thank you.
Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the appointment of Harry Larson to the member, as a member of the ad hoc Fiesta Day Work Group, or committee, actually committee.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 absent, motion
I
carried.
mean, let me know if we have any member comments. I know some of these we don't get, so.
Not until 6.6 for now, or I'm sorry, 6.10.
Okay. 6.6, next is the approval of the Fiesta Day policy. Do I hear a motion on the Fiesta Day policy?
Yeah, make a motion, we table this item and give staff some more time to work on fine tuning it.
Okay, there's a motion to table. Do I have a second?
I second.
Any comment? Harmony, no comments? Okay, all in favor of the tabling, say aye.
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 4 in favor, 1 absent, motion carried.
All right, approval of the Appeals Committee. Mary Ziegler.
I'll be married today also. Okay. Alrighty. The association received an application from the following members requesting to be appointed to the Appeals Committee: Brian Wood, Bruce Yarborough, Jack Wamsley. The Appeals Committee recommends that the Board of Directors approve, reject Bruce Yarborough as the alternate contingent upon execution of non-disclosure agreement effective immediately. Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any member comments? None? Board comments?
Yeah,
Oh.
I don't know what the guidelines are, but Yardbird's been on the finance committee for years.
I think you need to come sit at the table and fill out, so you filled out a slip on an earlier item, but you need to come to the table if you have a question. The TV audience is out there. They want to be able to hear you too. You don't want to come up to the table then? Okay. All right. Any board comments then? I'd just like to say Bruce has served the community for a long time, and we appreciate him coming back to serve again. There's been a couple of board presidents and board members that have come back and served. Ted Horton's one of them. I think there's a few others out there. Jack Wamsley's one. So we appreciate the board members that come back and their real goals, just to serve. They're happy to help and serve. So I appreciate Bruce's coming back. So we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 4 in favor, 1 absent, motion carried.
Okay, 6.8 will be a Finance Committee Chairperson appointment. Susan?
On September 17, 2019, the Finance Committee has elected Joe Washley as Finance Chair. It is recommended the Board of Directors approve the appointment of Joe Washley as Finance Committee Chairperson.
Okay. Do I hear a motion?
The motion to approve Joe Washley as the chairperson of the Finance Committee, effective October 1.
I'll second.
Any any member comment?
No.
Board comment? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 absent, motion carried.
Okay, 6.9, Steve Schneider, you're going to talk Facilities Review Committee Chairperson appointment.
So there's a vacancy on the FRC for a chairperson. The committee gave a recommendation to appoint Steve Liebring as their chairperson. So it is recommended the Board of Directors approve this member to be a chairperson on the Facilities Review Committee effective October 1st, 2019.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Member comment? Board comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 absent, motion carried.
Okay, 6.10, approval of fund marine traffic radar and camera monitoring system. This will be Eric's.
Thank you. So a little background on this. Canyon Lake covers nearly 500 surface acres with 15 miles of shoreline. There are 1,691 registered power boats using the lake. While our 4 Marine Patrol boats and officers do a good job of enforcing our rules and ensuring compliance of those rules during their patrol hours, they simply cannot monitor all places at all times. We routinely receive complaints from members about boaters far exceeding the 5-mile-an-hour speed limit, particularly at night. There are instances where boaters have been seen traveling through East Bay at full speed in the dark. Clearly, this is a dangerous and disruptive situation on our residential lake. In a 50-year-old active boating community such as ours, it is time to put readily available technology to work to solve these issues. The solution to this is the Time Zero Coastal Monitoring System. We have worked with 2 vendors, one is a hardware vendor and one is the software developer, to develop a customized system for Canyon Lake that will be comprised of 2 Furuno radar arrays and 4 cameras and the proprietary coastal monitoring software. With this system, we will be able to track all vessels at all times. Should a boat exceeding the speed limit night or day be exceeding the speed limit night or day, the radar arrays and software will track and target that boat and trigger the cameras to record their motion and CF number. This system will be similar to our use of radar trailers to monitor and calm speeding on our streets, and they've been very effective in doing that, only for use on boats on the lake. In addition, the system will alert Marine Patrol staff to speeders that they could not otherwise see that aren't within their line of sight, and also provide tracking and locations of our own patrol boats for use by management. Most fleets have GPS tracking of their vehicles, and this is the same as having our boats tracked by management, only better. A speeding boat at 2 a.m. could be tracked, targeted, photographed, and sighted. 2 Furuno arrays and 4 cameras will be installed, and they will provide coverage for the vast majority of the lake. Essentially, this system will provide 24/7 Marine Patrol coverage for Canyon Lake for many years to come. I want to add a few other facts to this. Today, the POA has 190 cameras in service throughout the community. This system simply adds 4 more cameras that were already necessary. We have a 500-acre hole in the middle of the POA, and the least amount of cameras are pointed at that 500-acre hole. This adds 4 cameras that would allow we talked a lot about security tonight. This allows us to cover that 500-acre wet hole in the middle of Canyon Lake. Some of these cameras were already planned. We have on our planned project list, I think you'll see more cameras at some of the parks. One of the parks that was planned is a camera at Diamond Point Park, which requires the addition of an electric meter and some network cabling and internet connectivity. And if you extract the cost of that electric meter and the cabling and the conduit to install the camera at Diamond Point Park, which was already planned, the cost of this system is about $85,000. That $85,000 equates to adding one Marine Patrol officer for one shift for 1 year. Our cost, this isn't what they make, but our cost for that employee with all the employer's burden, the payroll taxes and benefits and the markup that we pay our security vendor, cost of that one person is $68,000. Then you add an additional boat to provide additional coverage, there's another $40,000. So if we added one shift and one boat, you're looking at $120,000. This system's essentially $85,000 and will allow us 24/7 coverage for the next 20 years. So the fiscal impact of this system is $102,875 plus a 4% contingency. Breakdown of the costs are attached. The system itself is $86,500 after a 10% discount that has been extended to us through this month. The balance of the costs are additional computers, network cabling, operation staff time, and a new electric meter at Diamond Point Park where there currently is none. This system will provide us with state-of-the-art tools to manage and monitor 1,700 boats for essentially the cost of one new wake sports or ski boat. Recommendation is that the Board of Directors approve funding in the amount not to exceed $102,000 plus a 4% contingency to come from the Capital Improvement Fund for the Marine Traffic Monitoring System. Thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve $102,875.37 funding for marine traffic radar and camera monitoring system.
I'll second.
Okay, Carmody, do we have some member comment on this?
Yes, sir. Bob Whiteside?
Bob Whiteside, 3716-346. Evening members and others. I'm going to ask that this be tabled. And these are the following reasons. One is, here's another case of bringing something up for approval without getting a lot of input from the community. Same as the other fellow was talking about earlier about a different subject. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with waiting a while, another month perhaps, to get input from members. There's a new way that we can use, and we should use it now, and I think for the future. And we've seen it done on the Canyon Lake Community website, on our Facebook site. It's got over 3,000 members. I've seen Donna, we can make a request to her. I've seen her do a poll, straw poll. We can do it. People will come up and say, yes, we want it, or no, we don't. It's as simple as that. It gives an awful lot of input into what the community wants. It's there. Instead of coming up with this, let's vote on an approval, we're not even sure if the majority of the community is even happy with it, let alone they may be unhappy. So, and then another thing is when we talk about speeding, I know I've lived here 20 years, and I've heard a lot about speeding boats at 2 o'clock in the morning or after 10, a bunch of people hooting and hollering. But do we have data? Do we have pictures on these boats? How many boats up and down the East Bay? No, well, I know, so we need data. Do we have data about how many, for that matter, how many speeding tickets in the last year have we issued alone, all day long and night in the East Bay? I haven't seen any of that information. Do we have it? That's important information. So before we go and spend $100,000 on a system, and there's only a few speeding tickets, I could say the same thing. I've never gotten a ticket. I've never seen anybody pulled over gotten a ticket for speeding. Another thing is my boat, the boats I've had before that. I can go along at, my speedometer doesn't even kick in until almost 10 miles an hour. That's what it says, 10. It's got a fiberglass hull. I'll start throwing a wake at probably less than 5 miles an hour. So I don't know if I'm going 8 or maybe I'm going 12. So then I'd be speeding, I suppose. And I would like to see some instances of a boat going, as the way I understand it, maybe 20, 30 miles an hour at midnight or 2 a.m. going flat, blasting through the East Bay. How many of these do we have? We can't just go off of hearsay. We can't just go off of, oh, this happens. Okay? It's going to happen anyway. And nobody's ever gotten killed. Nobody's ever gotten hurt from this happening. And it has. I've heard of this going on for years, now and then. Somebody says, oh, these guys come flying by my house at night, radios or the stereos blasting. That's no reason to go out and jump the gun, I'd say, and spend this kind of money. So we need to find out, where's our data at? Boats that are speeding, how many tickets alone, year to date, day and night, in particular, some data that shows these boats going this fast. Let's see it. Okay? And then...
Bob's up to 3 minutes, so
all right,
make it
real quick?
Real quick.
Yeah. An important thing is we're saying that we could save money by not having a patrol run up and down the East Bay. Well, that's not true. It's not a speeding reason at all. We have to have a patrol boat going up and down the East Bay to check for fishing licenses, to check for registrations, to check for safety concerns. Maybe a buoy's been knocked over, something's hanging from it. You still have to have that patrol boat going up and down the East Bay. It isn't just for speeding, and this system will not detect that. So I'm just asking, can we put it on hold for another month?
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Ask Donna for a straw poll.
Harmony?
Yes, Kathy Mulcahy.
Hi, Kathy Mulcahy, 3868-198. I've lived in Canyon Lake for 30 years. I've been on the main lake for 20 years. I've had a boat registered on Canyon Lake for 30 years, and we've been boating every summer for 30 years. And I'm not sure, I kind of agree with the previous speaker in getting a little more information. I'm just not sure that I'm in favor of spending $100,000+ plus all the extras plus. That'll probably be, I don't know, maybe $125,000 on something that's an unproven system. Years back, we had a Marine Patrol that comprised of Canyon Lake homeowners that were retired. They had police experience, they had Coast Guard experience, and they had longevity and consistency. And what I've seen on the lake in the last few years is a lot of inconsistency, a lot of young kids. They might have their certificate, they might think they know what they're doing, but they don't. We had our boat towed last year. Kids couldn't even tow a boat. They didn't even know how to properly tow a boat. So, I'd like to get a little bit more information about this system, just as a previous speaker said, and for sure, try to take that money that's spent on that's over on the patrol side, bring that over into a permanent crew that has longevity and has boating experience. Thanks.
Kathleen Ailes.
Hi, Kathleen Allis, 386810. First and foremost, I just wanted to thank each and every one of the directors for your service to our great community. I know it can be thankless, but I really wanted to say thank you. I felt the need to come tonight because October is National Bullying Prevention Month, and I'm here to exercise my right to the freedom of speech as a homeowner in Canyon Lake. Because today I was bullied and I was offended and chastised on the Canyon Lake Community Facebook page.
Ma'am, this is for the POA. This is the commentary on Facebook pages. So if you keep your focus on questions for the board, please.
My focus is on the fact that I was attacked on a Canyon Lake community page about the marine traffic radar and camera monitoring system for having an opinion that was different and expressing that opinion. So I would like to say thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I would like to say that this issue is not about dividing Canyon Lake between waterfront homeowners on the East Bay versus waterfront on the main lake versus golf course or whatever else. And as you make the decision, I would like to request that you think of everyone that lives in this great community. It's a whole, it's not a division. And I was told very insulting things just for having an opinion. So thank you for listening to me tonight. I also would like to say that there were over 225 comments on a Facebook page in less than 24 hours. There's obviously many citizens in this community that are extremely concerned with the effectiveness of the proposed system, just like the other people have said before me. Is it a necessary expense? Frankly, I don't believe it's $100,000 or $102,875.37. Is that phase one? How many phases are there? Does that include maintenance? What kind of studies are there out there? And most importantly, I would like to ask everyone in this room and everyone that lives here, how many speeding tickets have been issued on the East Bay during the 2 years it took to put this proposal before the board? I think that we need to be fiscally conservative. I think we need to respond to the community as a whole, not to one person or a few people that report things that frankly are just not true. That is my request of the board. And I understand it's 2 years of culmination of work, okay? I understand people put time and effort into it. I just want what's best for this community. I would also like to say, lastly, that I believe all of Canyon Lake should come together. We should stop the infighting and insulting each other and work together towards what you Board of Directors have done, which is work together and present our community with options for safety and enjoyment.
Thank you.
Chris Papavero.
Hi, Chris Papavero, 3974-018. So I'm here, for the same thing, a lot of stuff on the Facebook pages, all the hoopla. I actually live on the East Bay, and the thing that I've experienced is, you guys, I've come before you guys before, and you've come up with a reasonable response. I live on the East Bay. I whistle at people. I tell them, slow down. There's a lot of people that are commenting that don't live on the East Bay. I get flipped off. I get yelled at. Who knows what else is going to happen. But 9 times out of 10, the people slow down. It's not like it's a huge issue, but the ones that do abuse it, I'd love to see them get a ticket. I mean, they deserve a ticket. So I'm for the radar. I'm for... I hate the trailers, to be honest with you, but it makes me slow down. So it's doing its purpose. I think that you guys have thought about this, and it's going to serve a purpose to slow people down. When they get a ticket, they're going to think twice, and maybe if I whistle at them to slow down, they'll thank me for not getting a ticket instead of flipping me off because I'm trying to slow them down. So I kind of have 2 mixed feelings about this. One is that I really want it on the East Bay, but can we save maybe some money by not necessarily putting it on the main lake? I don't know if that's something that might be a happy medium, because I don't know if this goes on the main lake or if it goes on the whole lake or just the East Bay. It seems to be more of an issue with the 5 mile an hour or no wake zone, and that's kind of the other thing I was thinking. It's going to give you a ticket for 5 miles an hour or more, but it's really the wake, because the wake comes in and it destroys our docks. I had a choice. I could live on the East Bay or I could live on the main lake. The bad part about being on the main lake is you have to repair your dock on a regular basis because of the wake. So I chose to live on the East Bay. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and thank you for the consideration. Maybe not spend as much money and put it on the main lake, since that's where everybody goes fast anyway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Renee Griffiths.
Hello, Renee Griffiths, 3778154. Yes, I need glasses. Or where I'm. With regards to the proposed spending of $102,875, and Eric, thank you so much for carving out the other section, bringing it down to $85,000, and providing me with information about the fiscal impact versus hiring someone. So I appreciate that, and gives me pause for my opinion, although after listening to everyone, I'm still going to stick with where I was going initially. I would like you to seriously consider postponing the approval of this. 2 months ago, I was here and I spoke about an app that could be used for multiple safety issues, including boats speeding on the lake. For those who weren't here a couple months ago, this app is used by homeowners. Actually, it's used by the city of Miami right now, and it gives each individual person the opportunity to use their smartphones, videotape, so if someone is speeding, and unlike some others who have never seen it, although I've only been boating for a year, I have seen some absolutely careless people blowing through on Main Lake in the no wake zones, passing me at 20 miles when I'm going 20 miles per hour in the no wake, so there are serious concern for that. But I think if we left it up to the homeowners to be able to take videos using this app and then immediately send it to Marine Patrol, if Marine Patrol has authorization to issue tickets based upon the same videos that would be captured by the radars that are out there, then you have more eyes on the lake than 4 cameras. You have eyes everywhere. You have eyes on the docks for people who are in East Bay or anywhere else on the lake when someone's in the no wake zone. And the cost for the app is about $6,000 a year, which is quite a lot less. Also, because this app does numerous safety things that the city should be interested in, we could even consider addressing the council and splitting the cost. So $3,000 per, maybe, but I would like you to consider that and tabling this, although I think it is a great idea for safety, and I'm all about safety, but I have a hard time with the actual cost. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Cheryl Fine.
Cheryl Fine, 3778225. I live on, my husband and I live on Gray Fox, so we're right on the water in the East Bay area on the main channel. So this doesn't at all address what goes on in the main lake. But I would like you all to take a look at your own charts that are on 78 and 79. I must have missed the category that talks about anybody that got a ticket for having too many people on their boat and not enough life jackets. I must have missed all the comments to do with adults and children being towed behind a boat with no life jackets. We see these things multiple times a day, particularly weekends. And what's so appalling, we see the Marine Patrol go right on by. They go right on by. and they do next to nothing for any kind of wake or speeding whatsoever. This system may work great for the main lake. We don't go out there much anymore because the Marine Patrol doesn't call out those boats that have the bladders, and they will generate a wake that goes over our bow. So unless we're skiing, we do stay in the East Bay, but the violations are incredible. If it were just the East Bay, yes, we have a very few boats that'll tear down there. Most of the time, what we have are Marine Patrol that just go on down, they're busy texting, they're busy chatting, and they don't call on these blatant violations. I was here in the mid-'80s when the little girl slipped off the bow, not the bow, the stern, in the back. It was 2 days before they found her body. That's why we have a rule about that. I see people doing that all the time, and Marine Patrol goes right on by. That, to me, is the safety issue we need to address, much more than spending this kind of money on speeding, at least as far as the East Bay. Thank you.
Jack Pierce.
Jack Pierce, 3718156, and I am waterfront on Main Lake. I am also aerospace engineering background, retired from Northrop Grumman. So a little bit of kind of coming back to all of this. The instances, I'd like to know how many are far and few in between when you call instances. I think this is kind of vague writing. You know, let's figure this out. I mean, if it happens a couple of times a year, then put a camera at the tunnel and capture everybody coming in and out. But setting up everything for everybody, we don't need Big Brother. You know, it is our community. And in the 1 or 2 instances, there's community patrol. But let me talk to some of your technology here. Customized system. I guarantee you a customized system is not a one-time cost, sir. Never. This is not a non-fixed cost. This is it will go on and on. Your radar array.
Can I answer that question? It's a lifetime software license, and it's off-the-shelf Furuno radars and cameras.
It is it might be lifetime, but nothing is lifetime. Is your Apple phone lifetime? No. They update, they upgrade, and you're out of date. Your array, if something goes wrong with that array, do you have a contract to fix it? The array, you're asking for the array to fix and regulate and turn on the signal of cameras. And that's constant interaction, Bluetooth, with everything. So does an internet system go down? Does your dish go down? Does your direct go down? You've got to have a contract for that. Your life expectancy on these cameras. You don't think not, sir? Well, man, you're better than I am, but I've got 30 years of experience with it.
I'll go ahead and answer your question directly. The radar system has a 2-year warranty. Life expectancy on those radar arrays is about 10 years. If the magnetron goes out, it's about $700 to replace it. There's no contract.
Okay.
The cameras have a 3-year warranty. We have 190
but that's a 3-year
cameras.
warranty, sir.
We have 190 cameras throughout the POA, and when they break, we fix them. There's no contract.
But you're not saying that. You're saying this is a one-time cost, sir, and that is not what you just indicated. You've got warranties are good for 2 years and 3 years. After that, things change. So I'm just stating that in your discount, 10% this month only. Man, is this a used car or what? Getting back to the situation is you're trying to govern everything in this community, you know, and it really doesn't need for a one-off. We already pay for everything that we do, and living on the main lake, yeah, but I'm at the end, and they go around, and there are some boats that go fast, but the majority of the boats are ski boats, and they don't go over 45. and some do have fat sacks and ballast tanks, and they do create a wake. But there's only one or two boats that are driving really fast, and at nighttime, the ones that go after, fine, set up a camera, but don't spend $100,000 and more of our money repeatedly, because it will cost.
Okay, thank you.
Tiffany Paul.
Tiffany Paul, 4001056. There's quite a few notes that I have here that are kind of all over the place. So I want to mention one thing that I don't know if you guys here are aware of, but Canyon Lake is one of 2 gated cities in the state of California. Lake Wildwood is the other one, where a majority of the rest of our family live. Have you reached out to them in regards to either the security that we were talking about before or this radar? They don't have as big of a lake. It's 350 acres versus our 500 acres. I understand that's a bigger difference, but it's just a thought to reach out, because when we go up, the security is not, it's a different area, it's Northern California, but again, you might want to reach out because they do have quite a bit lined up correctly. In regards to this topic right now, how much everybody is already I'm going to reiterate the fact that the cost of maintenance, and I know you've addressed that. I have to say that the total cost, I was at the city council meeting a few months ago when we were talking about the fire and police costs dramatically going up. I was for that because it was for safety, just like we're talking about here. But and it wasn't it's a one-time thing annually. That was just we don't even know where that's going. But this is different. I have toddlers at home, and I would be all for this if I thought that it was needed. We are off the main water, but we're in a cove off the main water, so but we've lived here a few years, and we have the little ones, so we're on the water a lot. We just don't see the safety that you're talking about. I just feel like we can spend the money elsewhere. And I'm not sure, I just got my boat license renewal. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of the fact that people are going to be required to have those boat licenses as the years go on in the next few years. I wasn't aware of it till I got the little slip for my renewal. And hopefully that'll help as years go on. But right now, I just don't feel this is necessary. So that's it. Thank you.
Stacy Nord.
Stacy, can you turn your microphone on? There's a little button. You'll go right. Yeah, there it is.
Stacy Nord, 3719321. I've lived in Canyon Lake for 12 years, both on the main lake and currently in the East Bay in a high traffic area next to Diamond Point Park. For the most part, I have an 8-year-old. I probably spend 90% more time on the water than the average person. I ski on the Jump Lake, on the North Lake, on the main lake, and cruise the East Bay either on an SUP, a kayak with my 8-year-old daughter. I see today alone, I just happened to come home at 11:30. Luckily, I can work from home. I saw the Marine Patrol go by my home 5 times between 11:30 and 4:15. Thank you. I appreciate it. I think it's wonderful. People who say that they don't see the Marine Patrol in the East Bay, I don't know where they're living. They go by my house. My daughter commented, "Why are you going to a meeting about the Marine Patrol? I see them all the time." I think this has gotten a little out of hand in the sense of when it comes to speeding in the East Bay, I don't see it. I live in one of the most high traffic areas you can get immediately out of the tunnel. Occasionally, you may hear somebody yell at somebody. It's going to happen no matter what, but fines aren't going to stop people. The real problem, which can open up, I think, a can of worms, is the amount of people who drink and are out at 2 in the morning, if that's what you're really complaining about, going full speed down the East Bay, you know, what's the saying, nothing good happens after midnight? You're right, it doesn't, especially on our lake. I wish we had a sheriff presence more on our lake, because I think the safest places to be are the East Bay, the North Lake, and the Jump Lagoon. I think the main lake, when it comes to families and children, with the amount of drinking that goes on this lake, is a problem. If we invested in our people on this lake, I think this problem would be much better. I think at the core of this, I love that people have fun. I have more fun on this water than probably most people. But I think at the end of the day, you're talking about a drinking problem, not a common courtesy problem anymore. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Harmon.
Chris Williams.
Good evening. Chris Williams, 3804226. I just, some of my main point has been covered by the gentleman from, with the engineering background, which is that there really was no information here that in the handout that really showed that the issue of the ongoing costs, like for next year, and then the year after that, and the year after that, are apparently not being considered. Maybe I think they have been considered, but it hasn't been communicated. So when you enter into a software services contract, is there a contract for software services? Is there going to be ongoing training? So if we have, who's going to be operating the system? Marine Patrol and who?
Eric, yeah, turn your mic on so the people at home.
Marine Patrol and Management. And there is no software license or maintenance agreement. It's a lifetime software license.
And that was the primary thing that was, I wouldn't have that question if that had been included we got, I know Howard's been here, he goes on year after year after year after year, he's like an ongoing vendor expense that goes back, we're getting probably close to a decade now. So we kind of have to watch about entering into relationships and see how long they're going to take us. He's a named partner. I don't know. We have two partners over here attending this meeting tonight, or three.
There's only one partner.
And there are two attorneys, though, right? Or three?
Yes, that has nothing to do with this.
Yeah, Chris, can you stay on the topic of the radar, please?
I'm sorry, I didn't.
I was asking you to stay on the radar. The discussion is this motion for the purchase of the radar.
Okay, that's all I had to say. My primary thing is that, looking at the ongoing costs of this, it's never a one-size-fits-all. It's like a patent medicine, it's going to cure everything. It's not going to cure everything, and there are going to be ongoing costs. Thank you for having explored them. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Chuck Moreno.
Chuck Moreno, 3846330. I just want to tell you that I am a witness. I've witnessed boats going over 50 miles an hour, and it's generally after midnight. We fish at night during the summer times, and this is during bass tournaments or just practice fishing. I think that I'm happy that you guys are looking into doing something, because all it's going to take is one person to get killed, okay? What's that life worth, right? Is there a price on that? I don't think so. I also think that if somebody gets killed on the lake at night, that you guys might just shut down the lake at night and say, we're done. After it gets dark, no more boating. Could you imagine the people on the lake? They'd be pretty angry about that. So I'm glad that we're looking into something like this to curb the recklessness, and I'm sure it's a handful. I've tried to find out where they go and and get pictures. But thank you for looking into it, and hopefully we'll get a resolution soon. Thank you.
No more public comments. Okay, we have I think we have a first and a second. Any board comments? So Jack says lead his lip.
I have it under member comments, but if you'd like to add it, we can add it.
Ooh, what a night. Well, three things. First, 3831 Lot 40. One of the things that I noticed when I was looking through the committee members, I didn't see anything on the ad hoc committee for lease agreements.
Jack, can you stay on the radar right now? If you want to talk about the lease, we can hit that under the general comments, but today we're...
I thought I was in general comments.
No, we're into the approval of the marine radar, traffic radar.
Okay, well, the other thing, as long as they're on the marine, you got to change the lights to red. Blue is not acceptable any place in the country. And the reason for that, if you look at history, blue does not show up in foggy weather. Red is the reason that it's chosen.
Okay, thank you. All right, that's all the comments, board comments. Dennis,
Two items on one piece of paper. Maybe I did that incorrectly.
You had this item on your paper? Dennis, if you had this item on your paper, you can come on up.
He does.
The radar system, I think it's great. I was instrumental in getting it started with the cameras at all of the facilities here. One of my close associates actually was instrumental in getting that started, but it's an ongoing thing. 102,000 throwing at a radar system. We don't even know what we're getting. You guys are just up here just spending money right and left. You talk about technology, you have a website. Why wasn't this published on the website so I could look at, and the gentleman here, the aerospace engineer, could put his input in there? I would trust his input more than anyone else just looking on the internet or where they're getting the information. I don't know, maybe you are a radar expert, but I think we need more time to look at this. You're putting up 2 cameras. Donna Ritchie published on her webpage that we're getting 2 cameras for the radar system. Now it's 4 cameras. I didn't know that. I mean, I said 2 cameras. Where are you going to put one? On the tunnel and the other one on the lighthouse? So we're not informed about all the information that's going on here. Spending $100,000, I know, is just a start. Because it was the same way with the camera system for all the parks. It started out the same way with the main gate. I was on the group about that. It started out, well, it was split up into phases, so we stayed below 800,000 or whatever the case may be. Maybe 100,000 is going to cover everything. I don't know. But like you say, there's 2-year, 3-year warranty. I know out here in the sun, I live at the beach, I know things in the sun here burn up a lot faster than they do where the temperature is more tepid. So I would say that we should, instead of deciding on this today, give it out to the community. Put it on our website. Put it on our website. I'll look at this. I talked with somebody today who does cameras and systems, and we were trying to figure out how you're going to do this with 2 cameras. Now all of a sudden we come here and it's going to be 4. Is 4 going to be enough? Maybe you're going to need 20. So putting out a system, I agree with the speed, with the radar and so forth. That's good because the people on the East Bay, I've seen people knocked off of the on the paddle boards because of the wakes that the boats throw out. I agree that that's a great thing. So just coming up here and say, well, rubber stamp, $102,000. I don't agree with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're down to board comments. Oh, Eric?
Yes, please.
I want to fill in a few blanks. Everybody's comments are appreciated. I think everybody thinks, where did this come from? Look, the POA is going to go spend $100,000, and where did this come from? I just want to give a little background information. I'm in a unique position that I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. Same with these guys. I hear all the complaints, good, bad, ugly, we're spending too much money, we do a terrible job of monitoring the lake, and so we hear problems with Marine Patrol, we hear problems about speeding, we hear problems about, we have 15 miles of shoreline here, and we have 3 or 4 three Marine Patrol boats monitoring all of East Bay and all of Main Lake. There's no way they can be all over 15 miles of shoreline. So it occurs to us, how do we solve this problem? How do we see what they can't see from 3 boats, night and day? And I've had conversations. This came about trying to solve a myriad of problems, and I came across this system. I met with the hardware representative and the software company. We spent a full day touring Canyon Lake, and how do I solve these problems? How do I see what the 3 Marine Patrol boats can't see when they're somewhere else in one of our many coves, and they're a mile from Eastport and somebody's doing something at Eastport? And keep in mind, we have 190 cameras right now in place, and we have always planned to add more cameras at various parks and on the lake. And I just want to let the board know, kind of break this down for everybody here. It seems like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money, but the lifetime software licenses, the custom marine map overlay that interfaces with the radar signals, the targeted radar signals, and the 2 radar units, which are $5,200 per radar unit. So if someone stole one, it's $5,000 to replace it. All these little pieces add up to a good chunk. That's the system is $65,000. The rest of this cost is network cabling, trenching, an electric meter at Diamond Point Park, and patrol boat transmitters, which transmit a signal. It's just like having GPS on a delivery truck's fleet. It's a GPS, or not a GPS, but different technology that works with this system. It's a transmitter for each of our 4 patrol boats, transmitting back to a receiver for their boss in the Marine Patrol office, who is a newly hired veteran Canyon Lake boater resident. I heard that comment also. We're also working on the quality and the boating experience of our staff, so that's something that's been in play for 6 months. So the system is $65,000. The rest of this is cameras, very high quality, long range zoomable cameras, which we need anyway to cover our 500-acre lake, which currently doesn't have a lot of cameras pointed at it. Everybody was here about security. This is part of our security. So this is a 3 or 4 part system. It's a tracking system for our boats. It's a camera system for our lake. And it's why if I can, I'm going to go buy a tracking system for the boats and I'm going to go buy cameras for the lake. Why don't I buy 2 radar units that are $5,200 each and some custom software that ties all of this together in one neat package with a lifetime software license and no ongoing maintenance, no ongoing contracts, no nothing. This truly is a $100,000 one-time purchase that solves about 4 big problems. And that my job is to try and solve these problems. I teed this up. If the board decides not to do it, well, at least I tried. That's what I have to say about that.
Any other board comments?
I do appreciate all the interest and comments, and you may have noticed on Facebook that I did read all the comments. At least I did as of yesterday morning, so if there were more this afternoon, I missed those. I'm particularly interested in the comments by people who live on the lake, and by people that I know who live on the lake that I talked to about this, it seems to me that this is more of an East Bay thing because of the 5-mile-an-hour zone that it is in the main lake, but there are serious issues on the main lake also. I wanted to ask Eric, is it practical to do this just for the East Bay? Can we do half for the East Bay, or do we need the whole system to get to the East Bay?
Let me address that. About 30, lost my place. The software licensing for each radar array is $15,000 each, and the radar unit itself is $5,000 each. We could eliminate one radar unit and one license. However, the radar, I spent a whole day with the hardware side and the software side, and we went out on the lake, we toured Diamond Point Park, we went to a lot of locations, and when we got out on the lake, the determination was made, if we put a unit and a camera at Indian Beach, it can see, because radar is line of sight. So I've sort of become somewhat of a radar expert by osmosis. That unit will see from Indian Beach quite a ways down towards Eastport. Probably not all the way, but there will be a camera down there that could be triggered. It's line of sight. Going the other direction, looking west, that same Indian Beach radar array and camera can see all the way to the bend right before the tunnel, all the way to Diamond Point Park. So that's the reason for having to put an electric meter and network cabling and a camera, which we were going to do anyway at Diamond Point. Then to see from the lighthouse area to that bend, across the causeway, across the tunnel, and pick up that first part of East Bay, we have another radar unit and a camera at the lodge. And it sees all the way down to that bend. So now we've connected all of East Bay with those two units. So I could eliminate a unit and a license, but I'm going to miss that first turn on East Bay. The beauty of having that second radar array and camera is that can also now see all of Marine Patrol, Happy Camp, Catfish Cove, and almost all the way up Main Lake. So for a little bit of money, when you add all these pieces are small amounts of money. Yes, the whole thing adds up to a lot of money, but we're monitoring 1,700 boats in a 500-acre lake, and it solves the camera surveillance issue. It solves the speeding issue. It solves where are Marine Patrol boats and what are they doing? Are two guys having lunch for 2 hours together? Well, guess what? I'll know now. And not only that, but the system is 24/7 for the next 20 years, and you can't put a cost on that. One guy for a year, $68,000. So
I appreciate that. I took the time to go to the website and review all the material there and material that was passed to the board. And I kind of wanted to go through that scenario in my own mind, and you just confirmed what I concluded from what the manufacturer said. And I would encourage you to go to this website. It's fascinating because this is not a one-off system. This is a system that's used all over the world to do this sort of thing. But what I noticed is that while a single radar unit can see between 10 and 20 miles, in order to be able to see everything that we want to see, especially right there by the tunnel, you need to have two of them. It's just that way. And it's the same thing with the cameras. Really impressed that the cameras are directed by the radar units, so that as soon as an object is identified that's not doing what it's supposed to be, a camera goes to it, or all the cameras go to it, and they make a record of it. I thought that was extremely impressive. It strikes me that the reason we have cameras in Canyon Lake, and the reason that we want to have cameras on this lake, is so that we have the ability 24/7 to find out what happened. Because we don't have people sitting watching all the cameras all the time, trying to catch things before they happen. But when something bad happens, we need to know what happened. And that's what this is going to give us the opportunity to do when we can look out on the lake. And we do get full coverage. The notion that we don't need to worry about this worries me, because I had not heard the story about the little girl that fell off the back of the boat and was lost for 2 days gone. But I have been told by people who use the lake and use the East Bay that we've got swimmers and we've got paddle boarders now more than ever. And when a boat runs down through there very fast, it strikes me it's just a matter of time. Next week, in a year, 5 years, somebody's going to have an accident and we're going to lose somebody. And when we lose somebody, we're going to say, why didn't we do something about this? Or how did this happen? And we have the opportunity to know how it happened. And you can say, well, geez, $100,000, it's too expensive. We can't afford to know how it happened. But that's $24 to you and me one time. Now, even if it costs us that every year, I mean, there's 4,800 lots and everybody's chipping in. That's $24 a year. We're chipping in so that we can see what Eric has described as our 500-acre black hole. And we can keep track of what's going on out there and all the other things that he's talking about. So while I really appreciate everybody's concern on what it's talking about, I'm not overwhelmed at the cost at all or at the ongoing cost because it's so inexpensive when we band together as a community. The benefits from it are extraordinary in my mind.
Excuse me, I know it's out of line, but I'd like to just add, or not add, but ask, reiterate a question I asked earlier. Can I do that?
Yeah, I think, do you have one sentence? If you have one sentence you want to put it out there, what is your question? One question.
Where's the data at on the amount, the number of speeding tickets has been issued in the last 2 years and the evidence of this happening at night?
Okay. Bob, one sentence. We got your sentence.
We don't have patrol staff on at night, and we don't have video surveillance at night or at all on the lake. And that is the purpose of this system, is to collect that data and catch the guy that may be going 50, 60 miles an hour with too much alcohol at 1 o'clock in the morning and running over a swimmer. We don't have the data, and this camera system and this tracking system is so that we have the data.
Bob, we can't go on. This is a late meeting. You've had your 3 minutes. Tom, did you have a comment?
So people familiar with Ring doorbell? Anybody have one in here? I see people post things on Facebook where they have, the unwanted person that approaches their door, and I guess the question I ask is, why do you have one? And the answer is because you want to see what's going on when you're not around, or you're trying to avoid having something bad happen to you. So that to me is much more about what this system is. It's monitoring. It's not about writing tickets or catching speeders. That's one of the benefits of it too, and it can help our Marine Patrol staff get directed to a location much more rapidly. And that's the goal, because safety is important. We don't want the speeder to end up impaling somebody's dock or boat or both, or the people that are on it, because they're reckless. And we have reckless people that are here in the community. Maybe it's not a ton of them, but like Chuck said, how many people have to die before you finally say, oh, maybe we should have done something? And I don't know that it's a terrible thing. When we talk about the numbers, I'll just use the big ones. $100,000 for a 500-acre lake equates to $10 an acre a year for 20 years. That's not a lot of money. It sounds like a lot of money when you say $100,000, but I mean, it's cheaper than, Renee, what you said. $6,000 for an app is $120,000 in 20 years. So it's actually cheaper than that, and you actually get the equipment. So there's a lot of ways to look at this. A member cost is about $1 a month for 20 years, and this thing's paid for. I believe that there's a lot of rules. You were talking about things like life preservers and people on boats and drinking, and all of those things are not going to get monitored by this particular system. But just like we have, I'll be facetious, but we have, cameras at the equestrian center to make sure people don't pet horses. And we have cameras at the gates so that when something happens at the gate, we can go back and look at that video and see what happened. It's not a question. We actually have it recorded. And that's what the system can give us, is a recording of something when maybe nobody's around. And what is the price or the value of that? I think this amount of money that we're spending is a lot, but in the long run, technology is much, much cheaper than the human being, and that's just the world that we live in today. We can get a lot more benefit out of the technology and the ability to have, instead of a man person, a monitoring system, an electronic system that helps us achieve the goal of just trying to keep this community safe. So I believe that, like I said, all the rules are important. Speeding is a East Bay issue, I think, like you said. It's probably more prevalent that we have issues with boats speeding there than anywhere else. But it's about safety and about just generally understanding what's going on in that 500-acre hole that we don't have cameras. We have cameras in parks. We have cameras virtually everywhere on the land, but we don't have anything that's really monitoring our water. And I think it's of value to have that monitoring going on in the water too. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that the cost of this radar is going to cost some money, and there may be a little maintenance cost every year. I believe there'll be some, but there's also maintenance costs in our boats. There's gas for our boats. We have to pay somebody to drive the boat. I believe at the long run, I believe that this system will actually keep us from having to patrol the East Bay quite so often. I can't believe we're not going to save, $10,000 or $12,000 a year minimum just by having the system in place. So I think cost-wise, I think the system will pay for itself, and there's no doubt in my mind it'll increase the level of safety. Between the costs and the safety, I think that going with technology and protecting our members is really what we need to do.
The only comment I'd like to make on that is that it won't take long for it to get out that everything on the lake is being monitored. And if you take a look at the traffic patterns we have on our roads, if you do the radar everywhere you're at, that would slow you down. So that no matter what time of day, we would know I wouldn't say who you are, but any violations that we would have good evidence and try to mitigate somebody getting hurt. And like I think it was Chuck said, $100,000 is a lot of money, but lawsuits are a whole lot more. And with the technology out there to protect us, I think it's money well spent.
Okay, any more board comments? I had a first, I had a second. Do I have a vote? All in favor?
Aye.
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 4 in favor, 1 absent, motion carried.
All right, we're on to general member comments. It's been kind of a long night, so if you keep your comments kind of brief, I'm sure everybody would appreciate it.
Rita Robles?
You have your 3 minutes. I'm just making a comment.
Oh, okay. Hi, Rita Robles, 223, no, I don't know,
346-223.
There you go. Okay, I'm the president of our dog park, Rita Robles. I'm commenting today, well, I'm in need of help. Let me read it, or else I'll get distracted here. Okay, here we go.
I think it's been a long day for us all, Rita, so we get you.
I'm tired. I don't see how you guys can do this all day. Okay, we pretty much are a new club, and we are trying to have our Canyon Lake K-Night Club Halloween costume party, and we really don't know where to start. I called and spoke to Recreations and asked if there is a manual available for starting a club in Canyon Lake. I was told they did not have one. I believe we need a manual with rules and regulations, a guide manual with procedures and permits needed, as well as for vendors we may use. I would like to know how we could use the snack shack, electrical outlets available, can we have a DJ, etc. We would like a contact list with a contact directory of whom to contact. I reached out on Facebook and spoke to different club members, and no one seems to know what to do except to tell me to call Recreations. I would be willing to work with Recreations to help set up this much-needed manual, as our club will be going through this, getting what we will be needing to get our club ready for our Halloween party. I just don't know where to start. This is my first club that I'm in, and it's coming close. And we had, I guess it was 2 or 3 years ago, we had a little costume contest for our animals, and I'm a baker, so I baked and I contributed, and before you know it, I had the health department on me for selling, which I didn't sell, I donated, which is understandable because my husband's a retired health inspector, so I get it, but at the same time, there's got to be something we can do to get this permitted and do it the proper way. So that's about it. See, that was easy.
Recommend you contact Lynn, maybe you could talk to her afterwards, and we can, after the session, if you talk to Lynn, I'm sure she can give you some guidance, so.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Who else do we have?
Jack excuse me, Jack Walmsley.
3831, lot 40. One thing I think that maybe your cameras might be helpful is people stealing stuff out of the boats. And they're doing that a lot. And you don't hear about that, but it does happen, and your new system may help a lot on that. Anyway, one of the things that I wanted to bring up is you listed the ad hoc committees, and you did not list the lease committee. I really feel that probably the lease committee is probably one of the most important things that's going to happen to this community. It affects everybody on the lake. It affects the people that are not on the lake. Because if we can't get and establish a good lease agreement, it's going to end up affecting everybody and home values and everything else. So we, to my knowledge, haven't had a lease meeting for some time. I serve on the committee, but we're not meeting. I don't know where we are on it, but I'd like to see we get that moving along.
If I may, we haven't eliminated the committee. The recommendation was only for committee charters that had proposed revisions.
They what?
Only the committee charters with proposed revisions were in tonight's board book. So that is still a standing ad hoc committee.
It's not eliminated, Jack. We'll have a meeting.
Okay, we're going to have one sometime?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that was one thing, and I was really glad to listen to the water people with reference to copper sulfate. We used copper sulfate for many, many years, and it was very good. They changed to alum, and alum not doing the job. Now they've decided to go back to what it was doing in the first place. So that's good to hear, and I think a lot of people, especially in the cove back there, where the water smells like you can't believe it, that copper sulfate does work. So that's good to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Dave Bretman? He might not be here. I'll hold that. Travis Montgomery?
Travis Montgomery, 3863, Lot 10. I'm kind of sorry that so many people left because I had two items that I wanted to bring to the attention of the board, especially the staff of the POA, as well as the members, and it regards two items that were covered in a special meeting held by the City Council last Thursday. At 5:59 p.m. on Wednesday, they announced a special meeting to be held on Thursday at 6 p.m., so it met the legal You waving at me for something? Oh, okay. It met the legal requirement of noticing a special meeting 24 hours in advance, because it was 24 hours and 1 minute. But at the special meeting, the City Council did two things. They authorized sending a letter to the County of Riverside advising that as of July 1, 2020, they wanted to renew the contract with the county for fire services for 3 years at a cost not to exceed $1.7 million for each of the 3 years. And if the county agreed to that, fine. If the county did not agree to it, the letter that is being sent says, this is to advise you that as of June 30th, 2020, we will no longer utilize your services for fire services in Canyon Lake. So they have not yet received word back from the county, but it was a letter that either you agree to our 1.7 or less million per year for 3 years, or we will sever our contract with you as of the 20th or in June 30th, 2020. They also instructed the city manager, should that be the case, to begin the process of establishing our own fire department. The second item that they did in the special meeting was to pass a resolution, the first reading of a resolution establishing an emergency medical services subscription for Canyon Lake. And that means that all residences and businesses in Canyon Lake, and this is important to the POA because I believe we're the largest employer in the city of Canyon Lake, but all residences and businesses in the city will automatically be enrolled in an emergency services program. And that means that you will be charged annually, yet to be established amount, to avoid being charged for emergency medical services when the paramedics and people come to your house. If you do not sign up for that program, then you will be charged a yet to determined fee. This is a process that's used in a lot of cities. In Corona, if you don't subscribe to the program and you're a resident of Corona and the emergency services come to your house, there's a $300 fee. If you're not a resident of Corona and you need those medical services, you're charged $400. If you subscribe to their program and pay an annual fee, then you're not charged for that. What our council has done is give the first reading of this. And as you do first readings and second readings, they gave first reading at this special meeting on Thursday night. Tomorrow night on their consent calendar, less than 6 days after that action was taken, it's on the consent calendar to adopt. And also then to begin a study of how much it will cost. What will be the fees for the annual subscription? What will be the fee for residents of the city when they need those services? If they don't subscribe to the services, what will be the fee to non-residents in the city? If you have guests in your home and you have to call because one of them's in cardiac arrest, will they be included because they're a guest in your home? It specifically says in the document that customers in a business will not be covered. So they would, whatever the fee, if it's established, a customer in a business would not be covered by it unless they're a resident of the city. So it's something that I think that this group and hopefully the residents who maybe are watching on television will keep their eyes open for and really watch to see what develops in this regard. I will say that there were five different families in Canyon Lake represented at the meeting. They knew about the meeting that was called in such short notice. There were 5 of us there.
Travis, we got to kind of...
All right. Anyway, heads up on this deal because it's really critical and it's a wide open door right now. Hopefully tomorrow night they'll lay it over and do something different, but it is scheduled to be on the consent calendar, which will make it a done deal.
Thank you, Travis.
Joe Harriman. Joe Harriman. Oh, thanks.
Joe Harriman, 3831-126. I don't know if this has been addressed already. I would just like to get some clarification on the Finn scooters that are at the golf course on how they do not apply to the GR 5.2 rule. I tried to call the POA office and get some clarification, but haven't gotten an answer yet.
Well, we can't really discuss non-agenda items. So if you have a question, you can go to the staff and talk to them, but the board can't really respond because it's not on the agenda.
Okay, I was advised to come here and ask that question by the POA office.
To come here, but this board itself, there's little we can say, but give you direction to staff.
And call you tomorrow? Okay, thank you.
You can make us aware of the issue, that's fine. We can't give you much back is all. Okay?
Well, no, I get it. Thank you.
Harmony, how are we doing?
I'm sorry, sir, there are no more.
Okay, we're at the end. We've got a couple more things. We have some reports from the association. I'm just going to ask that everybody try to be brief because it's a late night. So anyone wants to talk to any of the staff after the meeting because they don't feel their answers are appropriate, just come on up and talk to them in about 10 minutes. So go ahead, staff. Lynn, you're next.
Okay. Sorry. All right, today's executive session was called to order at 1:13 PM. Items discussed on the agenda included 4 member-related items. There was 1 personnel matter discussion, 4 third-party contract discussion items, and an update was provided from legal. The meeting concluded at 5:29 PM. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to adjournment.
Thank you. Our parking lot pavement project is kicked off, and you'll see that the contractor has started work at Eastport, Country Club, Sierra Park, among other locations. In most cases, we will not require a complete closure of a parking lot. When it comes time to crack seal and slurry seal a smaller parking lot, we will notify the public well in advance that the parking lot will be closed for 1 day. But in a lot of instances, we can do part of a park and 1 day and leave some parking available. We are going to have a hard closure at the Country Club. During the golf course overseating, there will be access in and out the driveway for deliveries and staff, that type of thing, but the Country Club restaurant will be closed, the golf course will be closed for overseating, and we expect to do the parking lot there, which is one of the major parts of this, between October 7th and 22nd. The golf course lake project will follow over there probably December or January. Improvements are going to also be made to the Country Club, to the Magnolia Room. We've already replaced a very old acoustic ceiling in there. We're going to be doing storefront doors on that room and some additional signage, replacement signage there. We're going to be replacing the stairs at the both sets of outside stairways at the Country Club from the deck to the downstairs with concrete treads and refurbishing the steel. Also during the Country Club closure, we'll be replacing the interior doors and remodeling the men's locker room. Happy Camp docks were recently replaced on September 25th. We also resurfaced the gas dock over there to match the new docks. We should be doing improvements at the North Ski area scheduled in October this month. We'll also be replacing the monument sign on the south side at the Eastport entrance to match the main gates. That's currently at the city for permits. Shortly thereafter, we're going to be doing the Canyon Lake Estates monument signs, which will be matching signage, and after that a second Eastport monument sign at the Eastport Market. So that side will have a Canyon Lake signage on both sides. We have to go through planning on those last 3. The pump track is currently delayed at EVMWD. We're waiting for them to grant easements for some retaining walls. So they've kind of slowed us up on that, but we're pushing, and they recently promised to get back to us, I think, in the next week. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Bill, Community Patrol.
Good evening, all. As you said, it's been a long night. I'll keep it very short. Today is October 1st. That means that here at Canyon Lake, we start our winter hours. We just want to remind everyone that the park's hours have now changed from 8 a.m. and they now close at 8 p.m. versus 10 p.m. So just a reminder, the parks that don't have gates, though, you are welcome to use those for fishing because fishing is 24 hours a day. Also wanted to remind everyone that the car show is this weekend. Oh, I'm sorry, going back to the park closures, I'm sorry. All parks will be closed at 8 a.m. with the exception of Eastport Park. So that includes the dog park. That won't close until 10. The pickleball court won't close until 10. The bathrooms won't close until 10, basketball court. So the entire Eastport is open until 10. And at the tennis courts, those will be open until 10 as well. All right, so the other one was just to remind everyone the car show is this weekend. Want to say everyone have a great time, but please remember, just to follow the rules. The lodge area will be closed off to vehicles except for a small amount of handicap parking. There will be plenty of security there at the event. They will be wearing the bright yellow shirts. I think you've all have come to know now. If you need any of them, please ask them for their help. And the last one, since you brought up the dog park, regarding the animals, we've been getting quite a few calls for animal calls at Security Patrol, whether they're just loose animals or barking dogs and other calls of that nature. I just want to remind everyone that we're all animal lovers at Security as well, but unfortunately, we are not able to transport animals. So it's just, we don't have the insurance for that. So my recommendation is to call Animal Control. That's what they do. That is their job. We will respond. We will keep an eye on that dog and help keep it safe, or any other animal. We had a tortoise the other day, or any other animal until they get there. But we cannot handle that animal. We cannot transport that animal. So that was it.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Corporate Counsel?
Nothing further, Mr. President, other than what we updated in executive session. Thank you.
Okay, and we have staff reports as written in your package. Lastly, we have board comments. Jim, you have any? You want to start?
This was already mentioned, the car show. It's always fun to see these old cars, and they look just like new. The biggest event we're facing here, hopefully everybody's gotten this in the mail by now, are ballots. I forget exactly, but it's all in there. Make sure you fill it out, get them in, because we're trying to get enough votes so we can get some of these rule changes or what's on the ballot, what we think to be a better community. That's it.
Anyone else?
I got unfortunately, the process didn't let me comment during the time that we were talking about the RFIDs. I think there's a lot of valid complaints or concerns about people not having an ID when they come in. That's absolutely a possibility. A car could be given to somebody else and they could be driving it in. Probably not very likely, but it could happen. The person driving the car might not be the person who was originally entitled to that particular car. I like the idea that on the permanent guest list, when somebody comes in, like my dad, I have my dad on my permanent guest list, and when I have him come in, I get a text and it tells me that he's here. An RFID doesn't do that. So another thing that would be better, I think, if we had a system that would at least alert the owner when somebody comes through the gates. It is a convenience factor. I think the idea behind this is to try and lighten the load on the visitor lane so that we can get more people in lane 2 or 3 and make it so that that visitor lane isn't so jammed up. The E-Pass, if anybody is not familiar with the E-Pass, I think this is probably a good solution for many people. Send your guest an E-Pass, and they don't have to go to the visitor lane. They can go to the second lane and just have their E-Pass scanned, and they will get in the gate just the same as if they already had a pass. So we have already figured in the last few holidays that by having this E-Pass in place, it's helped to relieve the load. And I think that that will only get better as time goes on and more people start using this. So I don't really think that the transponder would have done a terrible harm. We probably would have had, I'm thinking to say probably 100 or less people would have even gotten it, because you think that you have to come here, you have to have your car, you have to have the member, you pay money to get this thing on your vehicle. So I think the convenience of an E-Pass is far easier than somebody coming here to get a transponder. Other than that, we have an election, a special election, to try and get some measures passed, and they are much more monumental than the board. When we have a board vote, it's for directors, we only need a third of the population. We need greater than 50% to be voting in favor of these measures. So everybody, if you've got your ballots, get out and vote, cast your vote so you can be heard, and that we can collect the ballots that we need to be able to move these measures forward, or not. Thank you.
I am really interested, as you know, in trying to enhance the ability for the board and the community to make decisions. We are working as hard as we can to communicate with you, and we're going to be doing better. But you got to help us by taking advantage of the communication tools that we have. We've got a great website. It's getting better every month. We have automatic alerts if you want to be reminded to go look up the board agenda when it's posted, or anything else that's going on around here. You can go online and you can get those kind of alerts on your phone. All of us have POA email addresses. You can write to all of us. You can write to us individually. I'm not sure about the others, but you have my cell phone number, and I'll talk to you anytime. As much conversation has gone on this evening in these two critical issues to our community, I got one phone call and one email. So, I'll respond to emails. I really can't constructively go on Facebook. That's how I feel about it. But I will respond to emails, and I'll be happy to talk to you anytime. So please help us with the communications. I really believe that we're all dedicated to better engaging with the community. And then just to be the third person to say, please vote. I mean, we really need to improve the stability of our governance here in Canyon Lake. And these measures that are on there, you've heard me say it over and over, they will allow us to do that. I believe that. I think we need to pass those measures and give it a go.
Hobby number 4, please vote. We need to book a quorum. There is an option to simply vote and say, use my vote for quorum. If you're not sure where you want to go with it, there's that option. But we do need to get the membership vote count in. So it's been pretty long. Thank you for attending the first part of this meeting. And right now we're going to go ahead and take a break. And after this, we're going to have some architectural appeals. So we're going to go ahead and let the meeting go for probably about 10 or 15 minutes. Thank you. All right, everyone can take their chairs. We'll get on with the next section of the meeting. Okay, we're going to get the meeting going the next round. So we have some, Cheryl, this is usually where you kind of lead. I get to take a minute of a break here. David Bechtel is our first one.
And it's Betchel, and yes, Mr. Betchel is actually appealing the ACC denial for a shed that's located in the setback. So if we can get, I'm not sure what the page is going to be for you on your actual PDF, but it's going to be exhibit number A, which actually shows the picture of the shed from the street. And then picture B was exhibit B, actually shows you a close-up. And then exhibit C is the actual plot plan showing where the location of the shed is. And so currently, right now, the committee had reviewed the application for Mr. Betchel regarding the shed and was unable to approve it because it's in the setback. Mr. Betchel is here tonight and is willing to speak on his behalf to the reason why he would like to appeal.
And for the board, it's PDF page 134 is the written, and around 136, 37 is the pictures.
And so the best way for you to look at, just looking at the pictures of what it looks like, and then the actual plot plan, which is the last exhibit, that kind of shows you exactly where it's located. Mr. Betchel, go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. Dave Bechtel, 3868412. Thank you for the opportunity to address you guys. As you can see the picture there, the shed is located next to my neighbor's fence, which she has no issues with it being there. 99% of the time, a motorhome's in front of it and nobody else can see it there. The shed itself, with talking with the guys that came out and inspected the property, said that the shed itself was okay. It's a Rubbermaid, so it's approved for Canyon Lake. The shed's been there for probably 5 years, I'm going to say, and I was told that it was an issue with the fire department not having access. And this picture does not show it, but that is a gate that is in front of it, and there is, that opens, and there's a walk path between the house and the shed. You can walk by, I can take my trash cans in and out through there. So it does not hinder the fire department at all.
The problem is that the shed is in the 5-foot setback, which is a CCNR violation, but it also violates the state, county, and city building code for structures in the setback. You just can't have it there.
It's a portable unit. It's
Yes,
not
you're absolutely right. A plastic shed is considered movable, and by that it has separate a separate thing that allows it to be placed in the community, or placed on your property. Unfortunately, it can't be moved. It cannot be in that particular position. But I wish we could have had the plot plan on the screen. But my question for you is, why can't you have it in the backyard? You just don't want it there?
No, there's no room there either. There's a retaining wall that runs along the length of the backyard.
Okay.
And there's not enough room between that and the patio cover that's back there.
Okay, what about on the right side? On the right side, there is 12 feet. This shed is a 5x5, is that correct?
No, it's about probably an 8x8.
8x8?
Yes.
Okay, so, yeah, it still would not fit in that
It
right
wouldn't fit on the right
position.
side either, no.
I wish you would have gotten came in with an application for putting that shed in, because we'd have explained to you what the restrictions are, but the committee could not approve it simply because it's a CCNR violation, besides being a state building code violation.
Okay.
Any comments from the board? Any questions?
I understand that we have the ability to make some decisions when there's CCNR violations, but can we approve something that violates the state building code? Howard?
No.
Even there's limitations to our CCNR flexibility, isn't there? I mean,
We don't have any jurisdiction over the government. That we are a quasi-governmental entity. So one of the things we have to do is always say that they have to comply with all state and federal laws. Now, they could apply to a local agency, in this case the city, to get a variance perhaps, if they could, but if they haven't done that, then we don't have really discretion to say, oh yeah, we can violate those rules.
but to waive a CCNR is something there needs to be some overwhelming evidence, or there is a standard, but
Well, the standard in CCNRs is different, but if it's an actual building code violation or a zoning violation, you'd have to get those things approved, and I don't know that the building code violation could be approved, and it's probably connected with the fire department. When I was a planner, I can tell you that we had to run all of at the city of San Marcos, we had to run all the requests for variance through the fire department, because we couldn't override the fire department even though we were the city. So I would say that there's no way you can really do this. They'd have to go through that whole process of doing that, then come back here. But really, John's right. The way it should have been done is the applicant should have come in, talked to ACC, they would have told them the problems, then you would go to the local agencies, try to get that approved. If that would have been approved, then you could come back to Canyon Lake, because we're kind of the end of the process, not the beginning of the process. Does that make any sense? Okay, thank you.
Well, my question would be then, with that not being a permanent structure, that's really not a building issue. Is that correct?
Well, I only represent the POA and not the city or a
Understand.
local agency, but I have a master's in planning. I used to be a city planner for the city of San Marcos, and it is probably a setback violation, so it's probably a zoning violation, and it might be a building code, I don't know, the building code violation. And normally what you would do is you'd come in, talk to the POA, they'd say, well, you got to do these things if you want to do this, and unless you could get those permits, we can't really consider, unfortunately, your application because we can't override the government codes. Does that make sense?
And part of the problem is you're asking us to overrun the CCNR requirements, which are basically our core documents. And there's some instances with overwhelming burden on the member where we can do that. I'm not sure there's any overwhelming burden on you with the 5-foot shed. You're not being denied any privilege that anyone else in the neighborhood's being denied. It's just, you kind of want the shed and the CCNRs, and there isn't an overwhelming need or overwhelming, there's not an overwhelming just denial of you for your benefit of your property in the shed.
Well, yeah, and technically, if you wanted to get a variance from us, you'd have to prove a certain things like the President was talking about, which is that in the same zone, same vicinity, that you would be denied something that somebody else had. But the technical problem here is that you put these in without permits, you didn't apply, and you're kind of going backwards. So you'd have to really get those approval from the building department, from the zoning department, and then come to us and say, I got these approvals, would you then give me a variance, because you'd have to get a variance there.
Okay.
It's kind of complicated, but you're kind of backwards in the process.
So just to put a shed up, if I was not on the property line, if I was within the 5 feet setback, I need a permit to put a plastic shed up, a portable plastic shed? Is that what you're saying?
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is correct.
That is
Well,
correct.
If you're violating a setback or whatever it happens to be, yes.
Anything
If
that
I
you,
wasn't
no, that is
violating.
not, okay, so anything that you do to the exterior of your property, any additions, anything that you change, alter, you do have to get a permit through us.
Through us, but again, it's up to I don't represent the local agency. It's up to the local agency to decide whether you need a permit or not, but we require you to comply with the government.
Right.
We're not the government.
Okay.
So, John, if you could just tell me one more time that this is a code violation as a temporary portable
Really-
plastic structure.
Really, we don't, there is a specific sentence in the CCNRs that say that,
Not talking about the CCNRs. You said,
Yeah.
this is
But-
hanging on, for me, this hangs on whether it's something that the city building department would not permit,
Well,
because it's a code violation.
That is
correct.
true.
And if he even got a variance for it, we'd still have a problem
No,
because of
that's
the
what Howard's
CCNR
explained.
for us.
I understand
Yeah.
that, but at this moment in time, our hands are tied, because we can't give you permission to violate the building code. You got to go to the city for that. And as I believe as Howard has said, you go and get a variance from them, you get that part straightened out, then you can come back here and we'll consider this, but, we don't have a whole lot of basis based on what we see right now to consider it.
Okay, how long do I have to remove that or try to obtain a variance?
How long do you need?
I don't know how long it takes to get through the city. I have no idea. I've never done that. Is that
I would think, go ahead and submit for an extension on it,
okay?
and then explain what you're going to do, and then the committee can go ahead and review that, and then we'll give you the time.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
One thing that I feel that the committee should strive for is, if you can't do it a certain way because it violates a CCNR, how can it be done? The committee will be glad to come out there and look at your property and suggest, a different location if possible, or something else that maybe you don't see. We do this we work with people all the time, or members all the time, and we're glad to do that. That's part of our job, is to help you, because I know you want something. Your garage is probably full of stuff, just like mine, and you need something else to put the stuff in. So maybe there's a possibility, maybe it'd be a smaller shed, or maybe there's a better location. But you have a lot of room on your property when you look at it in a two-dimensional world on a plot plan, but we just don't know what it's like in the rear of your yard, and you're the one that does know that. So if you'd like to do that, contact Planning Compliance and we'll come out there and help you.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, so for our next appeal, it's Christopher Irwin appealing the ACC denial for an extension of a driveway and a curb cut. Recently, I want to say the end of last year, we approved a new rule, PC 5.10, regarding driveways and the locations of the driveways and extensions of driveways, how they are to be, constructed, and that our goal is to not have concrete driveways inside, and have no landscaping. And so the committee, they felt that if you look at the actual house, which is going to be the Exhibit A, it shows you the picture of the front of the house. They felt that this addition of this particular driveway would obstruct the front view of the house. And so I'm going to go ahead and give, this is not Chris Irwin, he's been representing here for Chris. And if you wouldn't mind going ahead and saying what your name is.
Absolutely. My name is Andrew Cotter, and I'm representing Christopher Irwin.
Can I just interrupt you 1 second?
Yes, sir.
Howard or Shane, we didn't really have a motion, second, and vote on the last one. Should we do that?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that?
Oh.
We'll make do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we uphold the ACC's decision to deny the application.
Second.
Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 absent, motion carried.
My apologies.
No, Tom, I was
want to do it right.
distracted over here. Harmony distracted me. She'll tell you why.
Okay, so what we're here to do is to explain the reasons why they would like to have the driveway in the position, which I believe is going to be our next, let me make sure. Okay, it doesn't appear as if a plot plan was provided. My apologies.
It's not this one, is it? It's kind of a sketch.
It was tough to get a hold of one for me as well.
Okay, yes. Now, it's a drawn one because, as you well know, we're in the middle of getting our scans taken care of, and so we didn't have access to the files. And so this is a makeshift drawing of what the driveway is to look like and how they would like to be able to add some concrete, the additional concrete. So I'm going to go ahead and let Andrew Cotter go ahead and explain what the issue is and then why they're appealing.
The main issue, from my understanding, was the actual curb cut of the driveway approach. The landscaping was met, the 1/3 per square footage on the front, with our potential design, I guess you want to call it that. But as you can see right there, it's hard to get 2 cars in a 2-car driveway and even get out of the vehicles without hitting the other car. We want to cut basically to where that mow curb is near that palm tree, just to give more driveway, and because it's an inside corner of a cul-de-sac, it's pie-shaped already, so the front face of that property is already shorter than a typical street house. And it's too bad there's not a picture there, but the next door neighbor, just to the to the east of this house, has exactly what we'd like to do. And I have a picture of that if you guys need it.
How long is this curb cut?
I haven't looked at the permit in a while. I think it was, I don't want to say the wrong number, but I think it was 13 feet total. And the way that from the neighbor with the truck on the left of that picture, where the standing curb is, one of their worries was that you wouldn't be able to park a car on the curb. The way it sits now, you can fit 1 okay, and 2's not going to make it. If with our curb cut, you can still fit a standard sized car if we were to cut from the white Suburban to that palm tree. And it's just to give more approach, just to get basically a boat trailer in there. We're still meeting the 1/3 landscape.
So if I may explain, this is actually a perfect picture for us to understand. So where they would like to put the additional concrete, there would be parking of vehicles there, whether it would be another vehicle, an RV, a boat trailer, which would then block the view of the house and eliminate the landscaping that is there. Yes, they might, I have not looked at the calculations, and I was not present at this meeting when they did the calculations. I believe that what we're talking about is not so much the one-third landscape that's being met, is the fact that there's a lot of concrete and that there would be no visual look of the house because something would be parked in front of it, as well as eliminating parking on the street with the curb cut.
I need to correct what he is saying. They did the landscape calculations incorrectly. They included the courtyard area, and they also included the landscaping they want to put underneath the vehicles. We do not allow that to be counted. There's only they require, or this particular lot has a 20-foot deep front setback and 11-foot community, so it's 31 feet. It is pie-shaped, and so it is kind of small. The one-third landscaping they need is 412. By their calculations, they're actually only giving us 282, which is insufficient. The committee, I believe, recommended that they increase the width of their driveway if that was sufficient. But there is no, if they put any kind of parking in here, basically they want to concrete everything in front, except for some small pieces. But if they do that, this will block the front view of the home. So it's unfortunate, but this particular Waterview is a very narrow street, and it just, in doing a curb cut, of course, we're going to lose a parking spot.
Mr. President, may I bring a picture up to you that I took myself that you can't be seen in that picture right there?
By the way, let me make a little comment here. This is a good example of a rule, and this is a rule that you could, if you decide that this is a unique situation, that another person in the same zone, same vicinity, is enjoying the right to have, let's say, parking in this case, but because of the lot size, something unique, or the way it's curved, if you decide, then that could be a basis to vary from your rule, okay? So it's the same concept as if you had 6-foot fence limitation, the CCNRs, but because of height and topography and the fact we all have all these hills, there's privacy concerns, and there's all these other people that already have that 6 foot. And so when we deny those, we're denying something that somebody else has in the same zone, same vicinity. So it's up to the board to decide, but you could make findings of fact if it's unique and if they're being denied a right.
I would also like to point out, we're talking about removing an approximate 13 feet of curb as well, which is in the community setback, which belongs to the POA. So this is one of those circumstances where it's a tough situation. They do have limited parking. They probably could resolve it by coming up with a different plan and not trying to incorporate the majority of the front yard and doing that large curb cut. They probably can do a smaller curb cut and then put in an extension to the existing driveway. And I believe that's what the committee is requesting.
And if I can just respectfully correct her terminology, I'm not removing the curb, I'm just altering it. So it's not.
A curb cut's a curb cut.
Well, we're not removing and replacing it.
No, we understand. We understand it's a curb cut.
Do we have a limit on how wide a driveway can be? Can we have a curb cut that's wide enough for 4 cars?
Yes.
Okay.
But your lot has to be big enough for that. So normally, if you have, and there are people that do have 4 cars, there's even a house in here that has 6-car wide, but the lot is extremely wide. So
Okay.
that's what.
All right, I just wanted to know. Now, what's going to happen to the trees, the palm trees? Are you going to take them all out?
No, sir. We're going to leave those trees there. And there's a correction on that permit. The parking, the landscape underneath what may be parked there or may not be parked there, we don't have any plans to park anything there right now, other than maybe a boat trailer. we didn't add in on the left side of that picture where the palm tree is closest to that green Edison box. That's a planter that will meet that 412 square feet. And we did not count the courtyard because that wall that is on there, we did not count any landscaping behind or next to that. We went off the front of the garage.
So tell me again why you want to put all this in concrete when it looks so nice? If you're not going to park there?
I do concrete, sir, for a living.
I'm sorry?
I do concrete for a living.
Okay, I got it. And you like concrete's beautiful. I got that too.
I can make it very beautiful, yes.
I'm sure you can. So the idea of, you said that the driveway wasn't wide enough for 2 cars? You can't get out? So what was the problem with just making the driveway wider?
I would like to make it wider, but I want to make it much wider. And not even much wider, just use the space that's there. And on the topic of parking, the only people that park there really are the next door neighbor or Christopher Irwin, the homeowner or the tenant. And if there's parking in the driveway, they can just park in the driveway instead of on the street or on the curb.
And another question that I'd love to ask is why do we care if people park their cars and block the front of their house?
I agree.
Because you cite that as the reason why you really don't want to do this, because they're going to block the front of the house.
Yes, this actually came up in the early 2000s. A individual without a permit on Canyon Lake Drive North completely concreted his front yard. If you go down Canyon Lake North, it's obvious that we have a camper, we have a trailer, we have a boat, and we have 2 cars in there. And that's when the board decided, at that time actually, told us that we weren't supposed to allow parking, that the goal is to have a view of the home. And, not in the home, not the garage, of course, but the home. If it was just, and it was kind of an unwritten rule, and so we've been following that forever, almost 20 years.
So that pickup truck is parked where it's not supposed to be parked? Is that
No,
right?
the pickup truck's fine, it's parked in front of the garage, so it's not blocking.
I'm not talking about the white one, I'm talking about the black one.
The what?
The guy next door.
Yeah, the guy next door. So I don't know when that was put in, or if it was even permitted. So, yes, it is blocking the front view of the house.
If I may also add, it's all because of aesthetics. We were asked to create a rule that would help to the community to not look like each home has a parking lot sitting in front of it. People wanted to walk out in their community and see the beautiful grassways and see the trees and even the walkways and things like that, not just a parking lot.
So I got a few questions. Right here where this truck is.
Yes, sir.
Is that landscape?
That's landscape, I believe.
So the truck's parked in a place it's not supposed to be parked.
I believe
That's
so.
part of the problem with this view, is that that truck violates a rule about parking on unpaved area.
Yes, sir.
So I'm assuming that we have a curb that goes from here over here.
Right about his hitch. And you can see off to the left, he has wood planks going up a curb to back whatever he needs up there.
But like right there, I think I see the blue for the street marker. To me, that's what that looks like there.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm assuming that the curb just goes solid all the way across here?
Yes, sir.
To that point. So that's a parking place on the public street for the vehicles, in a street that doesn't have many parking places.
Yes, sir.
And that's one of the things I think of when this and Running Rabbit is you got this long street, a lot of driveways, not many places for the people that are visitors or guests to park. And especially like in this picture, you got your vehicles in your driveway, even your guests don't have anywhere to park except for that spot right in front of your place.
Yes, sir. And I think that's
what is that back there?
The privacy wall to their courtyard, I believe.
Okay, it looks like a garage door to me, and that's what I was thinking. It's a garage door that doesn't have a driveway going to it.
There's a courtyard wall there, and then that is the house, actually.
Okay.
That is not like a garage door.
I guess my reasoning was just the neighbor to the east has exactly what we want to do. And like legal counsel said, I'm going to meet the landscaping requirement for square footage. I just want what the neighbor has.
I still have to correct you and say you do not meet the landscaping requirement.
Well, and having what the neighbor has doesn't work, because we know we have our community that has been built up over a period of time when a lot of people put things in that weren't supposed to.
Yes, sir.
And we have this slow process of trying to correct these as houses are sold.
Yes, sir.
Because we can't really force people to tear stuff up when they live there. So that's not a compelling argument to me.
Okay.
I am, just to say one thing,
Oh, go ahead.
I look at this one larger picture that shows the whole cul-de-sac, and I imagine the whole thing in cars. And I understand what we want this to look like, and we don't want the end of the cul-de-sac to look like a gigantic parking lot. That's not Canyon Lake. That's what the CCNR is all about. The policy's all about, I should say.
And I think it's probably going to end up being a storage for a trailer at the end of the day. What we're going to see is an RV or a trailer there, and we're not going to see the house. And, if you had 4 or 5 more feet, we could probably work out a space, but in my mind, I've historically seen these examples where people have asked for space, and what ends up is becomes a storage lot, and that's not really aesthetically pleasing. And those examples where I've gone back and looked, it's not pleasing at all. And where it was going to be guest parking and used occasionally, for some reason, it always ends up being a trailer. That's my experience. Again, if you had a couple more feet in the yard, then you could get a little more frontage of the house. I'd be more willing to go. But this, to me, it feels like we're going to end up with a parking lot in front of the house.
Is it possible for an exception? Because it is an inside cul-de-sac, we're already up against a small square footage area for the front yard. It is a waterfront. We do have a boat. If we were to put a boat trailer in there, there's lots of waterfronts that have their boat trailers packed into their little driveways. We wouldn't be doing anything outrageously abnormal. I don't have any examples of that. Obviously, it's just hearsay, but
Probably the people with the trailers probably have a bigger frontage, so where they've got plenty of the house showing.
yeah, I have no way to prove either way.
For what it's worth, my situation looks just like this. And I don't park 4 cars in front of my house. I get by with one skinny driveway that 2 cars fit in.
And to be honest, I have the same situation where I have a 1.5 car driveway in my house because I had to get the square footage of the landscaping to fit. So I have this island, I have a driveway and a half and a really skinny driveway and then an island. And I can fit the car in because I can drive around the island, but I do have the landscaping requirement, and I had to do that.
If you guys need concrete, I know a concrete guy.
Well, I'll move that we uphold the ACC's recommendation and deny the appeal.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any final board comments? All in favor? Aye.
4 in favor, 1 absent, motion carried.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, so for our last appeal, we have Anthony Renetti, who is appealing the ACC denial for a grotto that is located in the setback. The first thing I want to point out that this is not done. This is a request to actually build something. It's a pool that they're going to be doing with the grotto. So this is actually the right way to do it, and I appreciate this very much.
15 years, I've got a very good POA record.
That's awesome. So really what we're looking at tonight is their request to go ahead and build the grotto, and I'm going to go ahead and let them talk about logistics, like how many feet it is next to the setback. And then the committee, because it's going to be located in the setback, denied their application. So I'm going to go ahead and give the floor over to Mr. Renetti.
Thank you. And I apologize for being such a late night. I would have bought you guys baked cookies had I known we were going to be here till now. So basically what we're wanting to do is tie a a landscape feature into our existing planter box and have it overhanging the pool as a grotto. As you had seen in the executive summary that I put together, I think the things to really consider is that it does not hinder in any way emergency personnel or first responders for ingress or egress. It doesn't block or cover any service personnel from access to utilities like sewer lines, electrical lines for plumbing. I think most importantly, as a neighbor of the community, that it does not create any visual nuisance for any of our neighbors. It is in our backyard. Our yard happens to be, because of its nature, higher than all of the surrounding houses. So if you look even in the very first picture on the first page, you'll see that you barely see the neighbor's roof from our lot because of how it is. So it wouldn't create any visual nuisance for them. It wouldn't even change their perspective of our house, as they wouldn't be able to see this proposed landscape feature from their yard. It would be below the height of the wall, let alone the planter box that we're going to be tying this into. It doesn't create any kind of invasion of privacy for the neighbors, as this feature isn't something that was designed to be climbed on, jumped off of, or anything like that. It's just not, it's tied to a planter box. It's a planter feature that is going to have water coming over it. The extra 17 inches that we are asking for will increase the structural integrity of it, as well as the functionality of it. And as we mentioned earlier, is that I have been an active member of the POA. Lynn knows I've done many things with the POA as far as permits. I always do things the right way, so hopefully we'll take into consideration a stellar POA record as well as community service for the last 15 years.
Could you describe how this is going to be built? You say it's going to improve the structural integrity. I'm just kind of curious about that.
The 17 inches would, in that we would have more space to be able to foundation the back end of it. It's done by a professional company that's done these kind of builds for 30 years. So
is it stacked rock? Is it masonry? Is it cast concrete?
Yeah, it's a wrought iron, and then he does a fake rock around it. So it's chicken wire and wrought iron, and then he does a rock effect all around it.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Why don't we just move it 17 inches into the pool more?
It would fall into the pool. Right now, we only have 12 inches.
So they're cantilevering this thing out?
Right, other than putting stakes into the pool, which would be disruptive since the pool is already filled. I mean, that'd really be opening Pandora's box as far as the cost and everything else is. If we put this thing over the pool, you would need more structure inside the pool. If this were a build, if we were starting from square one, perhaps that would have been something that we could have considered. But since it's already a pre-existing pool, I think that would be cost prohibitive. As well as not aesthetically pleasing.
It's kind of unfortunate because the pool's already built. And the problem is, it's just like the shed that we discussed previously. It's a structure. And because of that, it's in the 5-foot setback. And 17, I mean, it's not 4 feet wide. It's 5 feet wide.
Well, it's 6 feet wide.
I'm saying that the side setback is 5 feet.
Well, it's our backyard.
It's the rear setback as well.
Yeah.
Well, the rear setback, but it's not really affecting the rear setback. It's affecting this 5 feet from the property line.
Right.
And that's where our problem is.
Yeah, and I guess that's the reason for coming into the committee to talk to him about, is that it's a 17, we're looking for this much, just to make sure that this is stronger.
I remember talking to you about it, but it's just that the committee cannot do anything because it's in the 5-foot side setback. That's where the real problem is.
Right, well, we have the existing planter box. It's also in the setback that we're tying into.
Planter box is acceptable to be in the setback. But a structure, and this is a structure, cannot be.
Okay, so that's why you're here. We got that.
Yeah.
So this page right here.
Yes.
The plan shows that half of this thing is in the pool. And your
overhanging the pool, yes.
Yeah, your orange part over here shows that it overhangs the pool also.
Yes.
So I don't quite understand why you can't move in. And I understand about engineering. Why you can't move it in and have them design this so that it doesn't have to encroach on the setback?
The part that you're seeing that's over the pool is the ledge of the grotto, so that would overflow so that you could sit under, you could kind of be in the back of the pool and then have the water flowing over you, is the reason why you're seeing that. So that's only 8 feet of it is what's overhanging the pool. The rest of it would be inside the pool, on the coping, basically, of the pool.
So you want to go into the pool and you don't want to embed any structure into the pool at this time. That's what you're trying to avoid doing.
Yeah, that would be cost prohibitive for the breaking up the gunite, draining the pool again, and all of the structural that would have to go with it.
So, first off, I've spent a lot of time at this house.
Okay.
I
Nice to
know
see
this
you again.
pool. It's one of the bigger pools that I've seen at the house. And,
Yes, sir.
and I don't see the sport court there anymore. I don't know if
The sport court is behind it.
it is there still there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. What it looks like is this pool got built with the idea that there's a setback, and they built it inside that setback. And so that only leaves 6 feet now between the pool's edge and the rear property line.
Yes, sir.
And you want to build into that 6 feet.
By 17
Right,
inches.
so
Yes,
we
sir.
have only a foot to really work with, and you want to go 2.5 feet approximately. If
I
you
want
need
to go 17
extra
inches past the
yeah.
12 that I'm allowed.
So
Yes.
is there a reason that we can't take the feature, which you want to put on the side, the long side of the pool,
Yes, sir.
and instead put it on the short side of the pool?
We looked at that for both options. On the one side of the pool is there's a diving board. That would be the very deep end of the pool. The other end, there's a slide, which is only about 3 feet deep, so it wouldn't be conducive to putting a grotto on either side.
I think the near side by your property line wouldn't work on that short side anyway. It would have to be towards the sport court.
Right. And that's where the
other than
existing
that,
diving
then-
board is. And we had looked at if we moved the diving board perhaps to the side and did everything, turn 90 degrees. But then I thought it was a danger that someone could dive and hit the other end of the pool.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, because now they'd be diving the width of the pool, not the length of the pool.
You may have to sacrifice the diving board. I mean, it depends on how bad maybe you want this grotto compared to what's already there.
Yeah.
I think this sort of falls into that same category as the first gentleman that we were here. It's just, there's certain things that we can do and maybe certain things we can't do when we get to setbacks. And if it's in our CC&Rs that says we cannot have anything built permanently there,
Right.
then we're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, somebody speak up. Where'd Howard go?
No,
there you are.
I can appreciate,
Could this fall under, I'm sorry, my name's Steve Dillon, I'm a friend of Anton's. This is a landscape feature, just like his planter box. And the part that's actually intruding the 17 inches is the beautiful decorative rock that's going to be there. It's completely non-visible from anywhere unless you're in his backyard. Could this not be considered a landscape feature, not a structure? It's not a building, it's not a shed, it's not it's beautiful landscape around just like he's got throughout up against his rock wall or his wall.
Even as he's in continuing the landscape into it, on either side of it to make it part of the planter box, just extend the planter box more into it, just to have that waterfall effect.
Be the nicest planter box in Canyon Lake, and I don't think we shouldn't
All right,
start.
just as examples, we've had people that wanted to build fire pits against the back wall, and same answer, was that we just couldn't allow that because even though it's just a fire pit and it's low and it's nothing but cinder blocks, it's building it in an area that is not permitted by what our CC&Rs command us by, and those are these documents that we just cannot get around because they apply to all property owners, and if we did say it's okay for you, then it's okay for everybody.
Sure.
And then there's no point to having a CCR.
Right.
If I may kind of explain the setbacks and the purpose behind them, I did a lot of research on setbacks and why do we have certain amount of space for the setbacks. Some of them are for fire codes, some of them are going to be for access and other things. The main point, and this came from the ordinances that I looked at, is to not encroach upon someone else's privacy. So they've given that 5 feet that kind of goes around your whole property to kind of buffer, because not only do you have the 5 feet, your neighbors should have the 5 feet as well.
Sure.
So when you build into that setback, it takes away from that 10-foot buffer noise. And understandably so, that we're going to hear our neighbors anyway, but it just helps in that buffering of it. And so
And that's one of the points is that this is so low, and since their property is below ours, you wouldn't know that this was there or not there if you're the neighbor. It would have zero impact on any
And
neighbor.
I can appreciate what you're saying, but the line's drawn at the 5 feet, and you're wanting to encroach upon that 5 feet, and that's lies where the problem is that we can't, it's a CCNR.
Okay.
I mean, there's times when people come before us, and what I'd like to do is say, yeah, it's all great, looks great. We had a room addition last year, which I totally just about said yes to, but it just couldn't meet the rules. And if I had to apply them to one person, how can I not? I mean, how loosey do I get breaking the rules? Again, the CCNRs kind of allow this. Well, if you have a topographical issue or a shape issue and you're denied certain benefits, we can look on some things pretty liberally, but it's hard to break the rules for one person or push the rules for one and not have the standard kind of go across the board. Again, I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it would add to your value, probably add to the community, but it is pushing on the CCNRs a little bit.
So still being optimistic that you're going to say yes, and if the answer is no, what options would I have as a homeowner as far as, like I said, we haven't started to build, we haven't, we're just talking to you guys, we've been doing this for 3 months now, trying to figure out how to work around this, so what options would I have if I still want to try to be able to move forward, but I'm still optimistic you'll say yes.
I noticed in this one picture that this feature is 6 feet tall.
It can be, and I only wrote that in because I was told that we're allowed to build it up to 6 feet tall,
So what I would suggest is that there is some height that your engineer would be comfortable with the kind of footprint that you have. So you ask for an option, maybe you just got to build it lower.
Possibly. It's certainly something we can consider.
Do we have a structural standard for things you can't see? I mean, is it possible to extend the structure back hidden in the 5 feet? And if you had to anchor with a footing and then cover it with landscape, we don't have a provision for that.
If you're talking about the height of it,
I'm talking about if he was to put the anchor in the setback to where he put grass over the top and you couldn't see it. That foundation extended back.
so you're talking about like camouflaging it, like putting it in there, but then yet putting landscaping over it?
So you still had 5 feet of landscaping in the grotto, but he anchored it somewhere in the
It's a
setback.
creative way.
Yeah, we could still certainly do that because we have the planter box that we can tie into.
And again, I don't know if it's legal or not, but I'm just putting it out there.
I appreciate
Would you be willing to come back to the committee and see if we can come up with a solution that would be beneficial and not have to go into the CCNRs?
Yes, of course.
All right.
Is there a height restriction on planter boxes? 'Cause
We do not have a height restriction for planter boxes. However, we don't want to obstruct views, make it impossible for the neighbors to have their privacy. So we do take everything into consideration. A lot of it's going to be based off of aesthetics.
Sure. And one thing as far as considering the wall that we have is currently 5 feet, I understand that the rules have been now changed to where you can go 6 feet. So we could also add, one layer to that wall to, again, ensure privacy and ensure that there's no nuisance, visual nuisance.
And we're talking about the wall on the property line, correct?
Yes.
Yes, so anything we can be worked out. I just think that at this point, it would be best to come back and try to work them out with the committee.
Okay, and who's the committee, just so... Okay.
I'm the chairperson on the committee, and I'd like to ask you to, when you do meet with us, bring a side view.
I've got a side view.
Okay, I don't recall
It's
that.
on page 2. I can hand this to you if you'd like.
It would be best to
That was
submit.
the one that they were even showing on the slide, because he was asking me a question about this.
I seem to sense an agreement here, and so I'd like to move that you go back to the ACC and work out a solution that doesn't build a structure in the setback. And I think this idea of having a foundation that's buried in the setback is interesting, because you can certainly anchor a structure in that without having it encroach on the 5 foot, but I don't know if that's permissible or not. But that's my motion.
And that would be, that I would discuss that with the committee?
Planning and compliance.
Yeah, planning and
Back to
compliance.
Cheryl, yeah.
Yes, just come back to my department, and we can reschedule it for you.
Okay, yes, very good, thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any board comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
4 in favor, 1 absent, motion carried.
Okay, thank you, Anton.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
And I think that's the end of our agenda items, and we can, okay. Sure. You may have to wake me up. But you do. 10:30, do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.